Chapter 25-29. Escape. You have nowhere to run. Ha 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 ha. The pleasant laughter came from a man with long blonde hair. He had a white and flawless face, rosy lips, and a charming smile. The elegance he exuded was enough to attract the attention of every girl. It was Tigan Decidua. He was proficient in space and time. Not only did he have a perfect face, but he also had an unparalleled strength. Even someone as strong as Trout Dragon could only defeat him, but not kill him. In the survival zone, Tigan Decidua was also an emperor. Controlling space and time was equivalent to controlling the situation. No cultivator was willing to meet Tigan Decidua. If they met Trout Dragon, they might have a chance to escape. But if they met Tigan Decidua, they would only die. Huang Qinyan was in such a situation. Even if she fully activated her bloodline and tried her best to escape after the battle, it was as if she was trapped in a cage with nowhere to go. This emperor of the deicide training camp with a smile was completely superior to her strength. Huang Qinyan only knew how strong the two emperors of the deicide training camp were after the battle. Tigan Decidua was not as strong as Trout Dragon. He could even kill a Trout Dragon without suffering any injuries. Huang Qinyan didn't know why she would think of Lin Feng. At this moment, when she was facing a desperate situation, the corners of her mouth couldn't help but curl into a self-mocking sneer. It was ridiculous that she wanted to compete with him. Now she was in deep trouble and could not even escape. The difference was too great. If it was him, he could definitely defeat Tigan Decidua easily. Huang Qinyan was seriously injured. Blood dripped down and dyed the wings of the phoenix red. Her life force was weakening. Seeing Tigan Decidua approaching with a smile, as if he was going to kill his prey, Huang Qinyan's heart sank to the bottom. At this moment, swoosh! A full moon suddenly descended upon the land. It contained the exquisite heavenly Tao. The intersection of light and darkness presented an extremely beautiful aurora in the void. It was so familiar, as if the battle had reappeared in front of her, breaking the silence. Swoosh! Huang Qinyan's beautiful eyes instantly lit up. On the other side, Tigan Decidua's expression changed drastically. He couldn't care less about Huang Qinyan. His body flashed and he quickly retreated. His eyes were filled with fear, as if he had seen something terrible. He stepped inside. Lin Feng wielded the battle saber emperor concealment and appeared in front of Huang Qinyan like a knight protecting her. Looking at that familiar figure, Huang Qinyan's heart inexplicably trembled. It's him again. This was already the second time. Ha! Ha! Tigan Loye clenched his teeth so hard that they were about to shatter. He looked at the figure that made his heart tremble, and could not summon any will to fight. The death of Trout Dragon that day was like a nightmare that lingered in his mind for a long time. That was a Trout Dragon. A Trout Dragon at full health was enough to kill him. However, he died under the blade of this unknown newcomer, Lin Feng. Swoosh! The perfect figure turned into a bright white light. Tigan Decidua disappeared from Lin Feng's sight in the blink of an eye. He didn't even care about the seriously injured Huang Qinyan and directly ran away. That speed was faster than a rabbit. Lin Feng was stunned and couldn't help but laugh. It seems that he was scared out of his wits. Lin Feng could naturally guess why Tigan Decidua would have such a reaction. However, his soul power had not recovered yet, so he couldn't use the 9th level of the Kuan-Ling Heart Arrow. Tigan Decidua was worrying too much. If it was a one-on-one battle, he would probably lose. However, losing was one thing. At least he could entangle Tigan Decidua and save Huang Qinyan. Who would have thought that Tigan Decidua would run away as soon as they met? So, this is the reason why he is below the Trout Dragon. Lin Feng looked at the direction Tigan Decidua left and sighed in his heart. If a strong person didn't even have the courage to fight, what was the use even if his talent was good? A true strong person must have fearless courage and the spirit to challenge. Tigan Decidua was still far from that. Are you okay? Lin Feng looked at Huang Qinyan. He didn't expect to meet her again. Yes, thank you. Huang Qinyan's heart was filled with emotions. This was the second time. When she was in the most critical and difficult time, Lin Feng reached out and saved her again. If there's nothing else, then I'll leave. They met by chance. Lin Feng didn't plan to have a good relationship with Huang Qinyan. Huang Qinyan was a little hesitant. She bit her lips and said, "Can we add each other as friends?" Okay. Lin Feng smiled. After adding her as a friend, Lin Feng left immediately. He didn't think too much about it. After all, this wasn't the first time such a thing happened. Every time he saved a cultivator, most of them would want to add him as a friend. Huang Qinyan wasn't the first and wouldn't be the last. They were all newcomers. Adding each other as friends wasn't a bad thing. However, the message Huang Qinyan sent made Lin Feng stunned. It was a location coordinate and a simple sentence. Emperor Domain. The way to enter the Emperor Domain. Lin Feng was surprised. He didn't expect Huang Qinyan to add him as a friend because of this. She is indeed very arrogant. Lin Feng looked at the message Huang Qinyan sent him. Although she didn't say it clearly, he knew that Huang Qinyan didn't want to owe him a favor. After all, he had saved her twice. Most importantly, Huang Qinyan had taken all the other treasures in the Emperor Domain. Only the most valuable one was left. It wasn't that she didn't want to take it, but with her current strength, she couldn't take it. Originally, Huang Qinyan wanted to take advantage of the last moment to try again. Who would have thought that she would encounter Taigen Decidua halfway and be severely injured? It was also fate. Just at this time, Lin Feng appeared. Although she was saved by Lin Feng, her injuries were too serious. It was already good that she could recover 80% to 90% of her strength. After entering the Emperor Domain, she still couldn't take that treasure. Since that was the case, she might as well do Lin Feng a favor and return it to him. At least, she would feel better in her heart. Moreover, inexplicably, Huang Qinyan hoped that Lin Feng could increase his strength and become stronger. If he is stronger, I will have the fighting spirit to chase after him and become stronger. Huang Qinyan pursed her lips and said to herself. However, there was a trace of light that even she wasn't aware of in her beautiful eyes. Thank you. Lin Feng naturally wouldn't be polite with Huang Qinyan. The sovereign domain would change every era. The domain of this era could not be brought to the next era. Although Huang Qinyan was doing him a favor at no cost, she did not have to give the treasure to a competitor like him. Even if she sold it to other powerhouses, she could still make a profit. I didn't expect that in the end, there would still be a big harvest. Lin Feng seized the time and headed to the Emperor Domain. Everything was ready. With his current strength, even if 5 beast emperors were to attack together, he could easily kill them. Chapter 25-30. Training Camp in the 5 District. One by one, the eliminated cultivators looked at the changes on the ranking board and clicked their tongues in praise. At this time, no one was paying attention to the newcomer ranking board. Lin Feng had left Huang Qinyan, Yan Handy, and Man Jiang in the dust. Although Huang Qinyan's performance was very outstanding, ranking 39th on the rankings, which was unimaginable among the newcomers. But because Lin Feng, this star, was so bright and dazzling, it caused Huang Qinyan to be overshadowed. Score over 10 million. Extremely terrifying. In the past, even if the newcomer's performance was outstanding, they could not reach a score of 1 million. But Lin Feng's score was over 10 million. In the last year of the survival realm, Lin Feng had climbed to the 3rd place on the training camp's evaluation board, just behind Pu Kiki and Ishio. And in the overall evaluation board of the 2 training camps, Lin Feng had already squeezed into the top 10. The ranking was nothing. What really shocked the 2 training camps was Lin Feng's battle record, his unparalleled tyrannical strength. He once killed Trout Dragon one-on-one. Lin Feng's strength made people speechless. Invincible newcomer. Time was passing. The cultivators of the hidden Saint training camp looked at the 100 years of the survival zone, and all of them sighed in relief. Looking at the final ranking on the rankings, the dust had settled, and there was an indescribable feeling in their hearts. Pride, shock, envy. It's finally over. Lin Feng is really too strong. He completely destroyed the God Slayer training camp. If Lin Feng is given another 100 years, no, 50 years, I'm afraid he will reach the top of the rankings of the two training camp. Haha, is there anything Lin Feng can't do now? I'm looking forward to the next era of the training camp. Don't look forward to it. Lin Feng is just a flash in the pan. His performance in this era is too eye-catching. After the 100 years of rest in the survival zone, the number of venerables who come to accept Lin Feng as a disciple will probably break the threshold. Venerables? Are you kidding? Lin Feng is a super newcomer. At least Huang Zun will come to accept a disciple. And there must be more than one Huang Zun. That goes without saying. This time, Lin Feng will definitely set a new record. The cultivators who were engaged in heated discussions naturally didn't know that the number of Huang Zun experts in the hidden Supreme City wasn't just 1 or 2, nor was it just 1 or 20, but hundreds. More than 300. It was densely packed. It was rare to see so many Huang Zun experts. There were naturally more Huang Zun in the 7th Mercenary Alliance, but Huang Zun had many things to do, such as training in seclusion, entering secret realms, etc. Not all Huang Zun had the time. Moreover, not all Huang Zuns liked to take in disciples. Sometimes, accepting a disciple also depended on fate. To be able to gather hundreds of Huang Zun, Lin Feng could be proud. At this moment, Lin Feng, Huang Qinyan, Pu Kiki, Yi Xiu, and the other experts had already left the survival realm and entered a majestic palace in the Qianzun city. In the plaza of the palace there were 4 different colored stairs. The top 1,000 warriors of the hidden Supreme Training Camp were all on the 4 colored stairs. At the very end were the warriors ranked 101 to 1,000. They were on the white stairs, the light shining on their bodies was also white. They were at the very end of the stairs. Their battle strength was usually at the peak God Master level. With the training camp's rules, they had the right to be accepted as a disciple by a knight. However, whether a knight would accept them as a disciple or not depended on their luck. Below the white stairs was the red stairs. The 90 warriors ranked 11 to 100 raised their heads with smiles. Those who were ranked in the top 100 would usually have a few knights accept them as disciples. They would be the ones to choose their teachers. They didn't have to be like the 900 warriors behind them, hesitating and uneasy. The red light shrouded them as if they were future knights. They should be proud of their achievements. As long as there were no accidents, they would be accepted as disciples by a knight. They would have a high chance of becoming a knight in the future. Below the red staircase was the blue staircase. There were only 7 rays of blue light, which enveloped the cultivators ranked from the 4th to the 10th. They were the targets that the supremacies were fighting to take in as disciples. The most common ones were probably in the double digits, and it was common to see hundreds or even thousands of supremacies fighting to take them as disciples. Below the blue stairs was the purple stairs at the very front. It symbolized the nobility of the warriors. There were only 3 lights. They were on Pu Kuku, Yi Xiu and Lin Feng. All eyes were on them. Logically speaking, the most attention should be on Pu Kuku, who was in the middle of the stairs, but all eyes were on Lin Feng, who was on the right. They were envious and jealous. Too dazzling. No matter where he was always the most dazzling one. Although Pu Kuku was strong and Yi Xiu's meteoric rise in this era was talked about enthusiastically, it couldn't overshadow Lin Feng's brilliance. A newcomer had created countless records, standing at the peak of 2 training camps. It was unprecedented. One could only imagine how intense the recruitment process would be later. When a venerable one took in a disciple, it started from the top 3 cultivators on the purple stairs, who were at the front of the stairs. Swish, swish. 2 figures appeared in the hall. The man on the left had a face full of patterns, a small green snake coiled around his right hand, and a golden silkworm crawling on the back of his left hand. He had a slight smile on his face. He was the person in charge of the 5 regions, Supreme God Gu Lai. The woman on the right was tall and beautiful. She had an outstanding temperament. Her beautiful face had the unique characteristics of the Pishio clan. Engravings on her arms, waist and abdomen, there was a unique beauty. She was the person in charge of the 5 regions, Supreme God Pishio. Bang! 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 The arrival of the 2 supreme gods made the hearts of the cultivators beat faster. That was an ultimate god expert. In previous eras, the supremacies rarely showed up when they were recruiting disciples, but they suddenly appeared today. It was obviously unusual. The cultivators all looked at Lin Feng at the front. Everyone knew that the appearance of the 2 supreme gods was because of Lin Feng. It seems that many Huang Zun are here to recruit Lin Feng as their disciple. The cultivators couldn't help but think. Therefore, people like Dongji Huang Zun and Byuki Huang Zun couldn't control the situation, so the supreme gods had to do it personally. It was a form of respect and courtesy. With the arrival of the 2 supreme gods, the 20 Huang Zun from the 5 regions and 5 regions also arrived and stood respectfully at the back. The atmosphere in the hall suddenly became solemn. The cultivators' hearts beat faster. This was the best chance for them to make a great leap. Didn't they do their best in the training camp for this day? Stepping into the clouds, going straight to the sky. Let's begin. Supreme God Gu Lai's voice slowly sounded. It seemed like he was talking to the 1,000 cultivators, but it also seemed like he was talking to the other supremacies in the hall who were covered by the light wall and whose faces couldn't be seen. Suddenly, a bright light shone. Chapter 25:31. The main hall was 10,000 feet tall, and the first floor was a huge square. Precious emerald metal covered the floor like a clear meadow. The top 1,000 cultivators of the training camp were standing on the stairs. In front of them were Supreme God Gu Lai and Supreme God Pai Xiu and a group of Huang Zun. From the second floor onwards, there was a white light wall that blocked their vision. The entire main hall was covered in white light, making it look hazy and beautiful, giving people a mysterious and unknown feeling. Standing on the square of the main hall, they couldn't see anything on the upper floor, and they couldn't even sense the aura. It was like a fog. But in fact, there were tens of thousands of sovereigns gathered on the second floor of the main hall, and they were whispering to each other. Every sovereign was equipped with a hidden sovereign luo crystal, which was connected to the top AI. There was detailed information of the 1,000 cultivators, including their performance in the training camp, various evaluations, and so on. Some of them couldn't even be seen by the cultivators themselves. They were all here to pick a disciple that they liked. Pu Kiki is not bad. I think Yi Xiu's potential is higher. What, old raccoon, are you finally willing to accept a disciple? I don't know yet. They might not like an old man like me. There are so many peak sovereigns here. I can't find a disciple that suits me. Everyone has their own opinions. Old raccoon, although you are a high-level venerable, you have the dark gate behind you. You are much more powerful than those peak venerables who only have one branch. Moreover, you have a high prestige in the 7th Mercenary Alliance. Let's see if they are fated. The group of sovereigns were chatting and laughing. Many sovereigns were fighting over good seedlings, especially Pu Kiki and Yi Xiu. One of them was ranked first in the training camp from the start. Although she didn't reach level 80 in the dangerous heaven region, she was still ranked first. The other one suddenly rose up after the battle region, and he improved quickly. He had been in the training camp for less than Pu Kiki, so his potential and upper limit were slightly higher. As for Lin Feng, he had basically disappeared. None of the sovereigns were talking about him. Why? The reason was simple: they weren't strong enough. Every venerable one knew very well that if a super newbie like Lin Feng wanted to take in a disciple, it would be a powerhouse like Huang Zun. It had nothing to do with them. Just like those elementary venerables and middle venerables on the second floor, they wouldn't foolishly go up and take Pu Kiki and Yi Xiu as disciples. Teacher, choose a disciple. Wasn't the disciple also choosing their teacher? At this moment, a few hundred Huang Zuns were gathered on the third floor of the hall, and it was extremely bustling. Although the number of venerables on the second floor was still a little small compared to the number of venerables on the second floor, those were the powerhouses of Huang Zun. For many epochs, there wasn't even a single Huang Zun expert when it came to selecting disciples. Under normal circumstances, there were only 2 or 3 Huang Zun who were interested and came to join in the fun to see if there were any good seedlings. Generally, if there were more than 10 Huang Zun experts, it meant that an incredible newcomer had appeared in this era. Hundreds, that was a little exaggerated. Haha, Aku, you also came for that Lin Feng? There are so many Huang Zun, how can there be one for me? To tell you the truth, the one I'm interested in is Huang Qinyan. A hidden gem. That girl is actually already very outstanding, but unfortunately, she was born at the wrong time and just happened to meet a monster like Lin Feng. All the light has been stolen by Lin Feng, and she's overshadowed. That's right, Huang Qinyan's final score was 3.23 million. Looking back, she actually broke the record of nearly 1,000 epochs, and finally obtained 39th place on the ranking board. This is enough to be praised in any epoch. Great minds think alike. I'm also prepared to give it a try and see if I have the fate of being her disciple. As for Lin Feng, haha, don't even think about that little monster. Not only us, most of the Huang Zun here are not qualified to be his teacher. Look, that's Raymond Huang Zun, from Qian Zun City, the 17th disciple of Qian Zun City Lord, the pinnacle Huang Zun, and he came for Lin Feng. Not only that, Huang Zun from True Ancestors line, Huang Zun from Taichung's line are also here, and, haha, there are more above. Above? No way, even godly venerables are here to join in the fun? Above the main hall, the Huang Zun and venerables were all discussing. In the square below, the first batch of disciples had already begun. The purple stairs symbolized the noble status. Pu Kiki, Yi Xiu, and Lin Feng, almost instantly, countless orange-yellow light spots with a diameter of about 1 millimeter appeared, as if they were being illuminated by laser lights. It came from Qian Zun Luojing, a face-to-face message transmission function. Each orange-yellow light beam represented the recruitment and invitation of a venerable. All the recruitment information and information could only be seen by the recruited cultivators themselves. Whoosh, 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 whoosh. It was obvious that dozens of light beams appeared on Pu Kiki and Yi Xiu's bodies in an instant, and the number kept increasing. However, the strange thing was that not a single orange-yellow light beam could be seen on Lin Feng's body, which was surprising. Just as the cultivators behind him were puzzled, a green light beam directly shot down from the third floor of the main hall. It was no longer an orange-yellow circular light spot. Instead, it was a green-green square beam of light. Under the illumination of these beams of orange-yellow light, it appeared exceptionally abrupt and peculiar. Moreover, the spot where the light beam was emitted from also caused a series of gasps to sound. Those experienced cultivators naturally knew where this green beam of light came from. The third floor of the main hall. Huang Zun was a powerful cultivator. Then, green square beams of light rushed over one after another. It seemed that no one wanted to be left behind. From a few to a dozen, from a dozen to a dozen, and from a dozen to a few dozen. In an instant, the number had exceeded the orange-yellow light beams on Pu Kiki and Yi Xiu. More than 100. The cultivators behind him were dumbfounded and shocked. Although they knew that Lin Feng would be highly regarded by Huang Zun and be accepted as a disciple, they didn't expect so many Huang Zun to come and fight to recruit Lin Feng as a disciple. From their position, they couldn't see how many venerables and Huang Zun were on the second and third floors. However, looking at the previous eras, It was already good enough that Huang Zun had a few powerful cultivators. But now there were so many? More than 100 green light beams weren't enough, and there were still more. How many powerful Huang Zun cultivators had come? The cultivators' hearts were in a perilous situation, and they were really frightened. This was Huang Zun. As long as they could be accepted as a disciple by a venerable one, they would burn incense and pray to Buddha, thanking the heavens and earth. Lin Feng could actually choose the most suitable teacher among hundreds of Huang Zun cultivators. This was 2F** King shocking. At this moment, a light beam with a diameter of 10 millimeters, as black as ink, shot down from the sky with a whoosh. It carried a 5-pointed star symbol and was reflected on Lin Feng's chest. Hiss, the group of cultivators widened their eyes as they gasped in shock. Chapter 25-32. Black Light Beam. Ultimate God. The legendary Ultimate God. Lin Feng had attracted the attention of an ultimate god. Was there any justice in this world? The group of cultivators cried out in grief, especially the cultivators at the bottom of the stairs. They did not even know if there were any venerables who wanted to recruit them. Lin Feng, the newcomer in front of them, could already choose hundreds of Huang Zun experts to recruit. There were even ultimate god experts. That was the top combat power of the 7th Mercenary Alliance. Above that would be the higher-ups at the Doyen level. Even if they became venerables, ultimate god experts were still an unattainable existence. Their status and strength were much higher than venerables. Such an expert appeared in their era just to recruit Lin Feng as a disciple. It was truly infuriating to compare oneself to others. With envy and resentment in their eyes, the group of cultivators stared at Lin Feng. If looks could kill, Lin Feng would have died a few hundred times already. However, the cultivators were just envious from the bottom of their hearts. Who would not want to have a good teacher? Who would not want to have a backer? Unfortunately, they did not have Lin Feng's impressive battle record and monstrous talent. They were also the best in their respective astral realms and stood out from the millions of geniuses in the training camp. They were clearly the cream of the crop, but now why did they feel like they were weeds and could not bear to look at them directly? At this moment, all the cultivators were at a loss. Inexplicably, some of their confidence was shaken. However, the attack was not over yet. In an instant, whoosh, whoosh, another 2 black light beams shot down from above and shot straight down from the 4th floor of the main hall. Below them, there were more than 10 new green light beams that landed on Lin Feng's chest. 3 light beams. 3 black light beams. 3 ultimate god experts wanted to recruit Lin Feng as a disciple. This time, not only the cultivators, but the group of Huang Zun experts standing behind Ultimate God Venomous Insect and Ultimate God Pichio were also stunned. The experienced ones among them had indeed seen godly venerable rank experts taken disciples, but that was the only one. Unlike now, Lin Feng alone had attracted the attention of 3 ultimate gods. Are you kidding me? Hierarch Anqing. Divine Miluoho. Divine Widower. Lin Feng had indeed received 3 ultimate gods' recruitment invitations in the midst of all the messages. Supreme God Anqing and Supreme God Miluohu were not part of the 7 main branches of the 7th Mercenary Alliance. Supreme God Widower belonged to the Luotian branch. In terms of strength, Ultimate God Anqing was the strongest as he was a mid-level ultimate god, while ultimate gods Miluoho and ultimate gods Wiener were both primary-level ultimate gods. In terms of factions, Supreme God Widower was backed by the Luotian faction, so he was the most confident. Although the 7th Mercenary Alliance was a giant, it was still complicated and had its own factions. However, these factions were just like the branches of a clan. Only the blood relationship was recognized. In the 7th Mercenary Alliance, it was a master-disciple relationship. Blatantly forming factions was definitely out of the question, as the Yuan Venerates of the 7th Mercenary Alliance would not allow it. However, there was no way to stop such a master-disciple relationship. For example, the hidden Venerate City Lord had 33 disciples. One of them was a Yuan Venerate, 12 ultimate gods, and 20 were Huang Zun. He had a lot of disciples and grand disciples. After countless epochs of development, they had naturally formed a faction. For example, the Taichung faction and the True Patriarchs faction had been founded by the Taichung faction's first and second disciples. They had a long history with the hidden Venerate City faction and had countless powerhouses after a long period of accumulation. In comparison, the Luotian faction wasn't too strong. However, Yuan Venerate Luotian had a reputation and strength after all. 3 ultimate gods. Lin Feng was also rather surprised. He had originally thought that only Huang Zun would appear. He had never imagined that ultimate gods would condescend to come. Among the 3 ultimate gods, Luo Yunyang was most interested in ultimate god Anqing. Although he didn't belong to the 7 main factions, this wasn't important. When choosing a teacher, the most important thing was to see if they were to one's liking and temperament. Out of the 3 ultimate gods, ultimate god Anqing was the best. Not only was he not aloof, but he was also smiling like an elder brother. He had even directly pointed out the crux of Aurora's 7th move, which Luo Yunyang was currently most confused about. It was obvious that ultimate god Anqing's attainments in the blade technique were rather high and far exceeded Luo Yunyang's cultivation base. His pointers had hit the nail on the head. Lin Feng couldn't wait to immediately go back and cultivate in seclusion to improve his understanding of the blade technique. This was the difference between having a teacher and not having one. Not only could a teacher resolve his doubts during the cultivation process, but it could also help him avoid many detours. If Lin Feng had to choose, he would naturally lean towards ultimate god Anqing. On the 4th floor of the hall, compared to the bustling 2nd floor and the lively 3rd floor, the 4th floor seemed a little lonely and bleak. There were only 3 figures, 3 ultimate gods, who had come for Lin Feng. They looked away and didn't say anything. Ultimate god Anqing, ultimate god Miluohu, and ultimate god Widower didn't have much of a relationship. Every ultimate god had a fixed circle of friends. They cultivated together and explored the universe's secret regions together. It didn't mean that they were all part of the 7th Mercenary Alliance, but they were close friends. Many of the ultimate gods had conflicts with each other and didn't see eye to eye. However, ultimate god Anqing, ultimate god Miluohu, and ultimate god Widower didn't have any enmity. They were just competitors. Give up, ultimate god Anqing. This child isn't suitable for you. Ultimate god Anqing looked at ultimate god Widower and said, "Why not?" Ultimate god Widower's face was a little ugly. He laughed and said, "A teacher can show you the way, but it's up to you to cultivate. A genius like Lin Feng doesn't need me to teach him anything. I just need to give him enough resources. Blindly interfering will only backfire." Ultimate god Widower is right. A genius like Lin Feng is more suitable to be raised and developed freely. Ultimate god Miluohu was a special life form. His flat head rippled like water, and his transparent hands were soft as if they had no bones. I can teach him blade technique. Supreme God Anqing had always wanted to find a disciple with strong talent in saber technique. When Supreme God Gu Lai recommended Lin Feng to him, he was already interested. At that time, Lin Feng was far from his current ability to defeat Trout Dragon. In fact, he didn't want Lin Feng to be so outstanding. Venerable God Anqing, who had been paying attention to Lin Feng, knew that there would be more than one venerable god competing with him for his disciple after learning that Lin Feng had defeated Trout Dragon. Sure enough, Supreme God Mi Luo Ho and Supreme God Widower arrived one after another in the last few years. If it were not for the short time, many ultimate gods would have rushed over. I can teach him the space heavenly Tao. Supreme God Mi Luoho paused and said, I can also teach him the heavenly Tao of time, said Divine Widower with a chuckle. Supreme God Anqing's face darkened. He knew that the two supreme gods would not give up so easily. He snorted angrily and said no more. He believed that he still had an advantage. The possibility of Lin Feng choosing him was relatively higher. Chapter 25:33. Which one should he choose? This was the thought of every cultivator, including the supremacies. At this point, there were more than 300 green beams of light on Lin Feng's body, attracting the attention of most of the sovereigns. On the other hand, there were only a few dozen orange beams of light. The most eye-catching ones were undoubtedly the 3 pure black beams of light. Everyone knew that Lin Feng would most likely choose the 3 supreme gods. Anqing, Miluo Ho or Hui? Supreme God Gu Lai squinted his eyes and looked at Lin Feng curiously. He also wanted to know the answer. On the other hand, Supreme God Pai Xiu was calm and only looked at Lin Feng a few more times. 3 supreme gods fighting over a disciple. This was definitely the most sensational news in the hidden supremacy training camp in the last million eras. Of course, Lin Feng did have the strength to make 3 supreme gods lower themselves and fight over him as a disciple. It was said that it was hard to find a good teacher, but it was also hard to find a disciple with good talent and temperament. Otherwise, the ancestral patriarch would not only accept 2 disciples. The square in the main hall was silent. Pu Kiki and Yi Xiu had already made their decision. Pu Kiki chose a high-level supreme as her teacher, while Yi Xiu chose a peak supreme. They could not wait to become supremacies and stand tall in the 7th divine realm. Lin Feng's expression was still calm. Actually, Lin Feng had already made his decision before he entered the hall, and even before he entered the survival domain, even before he started calculating the time, Lin Feng had already decided. He did not change his mind because of his strength. First, Lin Feng had not obtained the ultimate heavenly law treasure. Second, there was still the stronger Aurora Saber technique in the dangerous heaven region. Third, there was still a large number of hidden supremacy points that had not been used. For Lin Feng, entering the various training facilities in the 5 regions was still a great help to his strength. Lastly, Lin Feng did not plan to become a supremacy. Whoosh! In an instant, all the light beams shining on Lin Feng's body were extinguished. It was as if the stars had surrounded the moon, and in an instant it fell and dimmed. Gasps could be heard all around as they stared at Lin Feng, dumbfounded. They never thought that Lin Feng would make such a choice. Rejected. Lin Feng rejected all of them. Supreme God Gu Lai was also stunned. On the other hand, Supreme God Pai Xiu, who was beside him, looked at Lin Feng with great interest. He did not waver even though 3 supreme gods were fighting over him to be their disciple. This newcomer was interesting. Thank you, Supreme Gods, Lord Huang Zun, and Lord Venerable for your kindness. Lin Feng pondered for a moment and then said, Lin Feng's skills are not yet perfect. He still needs more training in the training camp. I hope everyone will forgive him. Then, he bowed slightly. For Lin Feng, this was not the best time. He was not ready yet. Whoosh! The faces of the cultivators standing behind Lin Feng instantly darkened. What did he mean by "I'm not proficient in my skills"? If Lin Feng's skills were not yet perfect, what were they? Half a bucket of water? Or had they only learned a little? Although he knew that Lin Feng was being modest, why did it sound so unpleasant to the ears? You did not forget your original intentions. Very good. Supreme God Pai Xiu's voice was light and airy. Good. Supreme God Gu Lai did not say anything. This was actually very common. Many newcomers would choose to return to the training camp for the first time. However, Lin Feng was a little special. After all, the newcomers who returned to the training camp were usually only recruited by venerables. However, Lin Feng not only had more than 300 Huang Zuns recruited him, but also 3 supreme gods. With such treatment, he could still insist on returning to the training camp to continue training. No wonder Supreme God Pai Xiu praised him and said that he did not forget his original intentions. Supreme God Gu Lai and Supreme God Pai Xiu naturally paid attention to Lin Feng. They knew that his cultivation was very complex and involved in all aspects, but he was not proficient in any of them. Right now, becoming a disciple was not the best choice. With so many hidden revered points, Lin Feng's best choice was to return to the training camp and consolidate his foundation with various training facilities. He would improve every aspect and then find a key breakthrough. However, it was one thing to say and another to do. How many newcomers could maintain their original intentions under the guidance of three supreme gods? Very few. Since the beginning of the era, there were very few super newcomers who were favored by the three Huang Zun's experts, let alone maintain their original intentions and return to the training camp to continue training. However, Lin Feng was indeed special. On the third floor of the main hall, the Huang Zuns felt that it was a pity, but they did not care too much. After all, they also knew that the chances of Lin Feng choosing three supreme gods to recruit him were very slim. On the fourth floor, the three supreme gods looked at each other and were somewhat surprised. After all the fighting, Lin Feng did not choose any of them. This kid. Supreme God Widower's ugly face twitched. He shrugged at Supreme God Anqing and then left. To him, the only purpose of coming here was to recruit Lin Feng. Now that he had failed, there was no need to waste any more time. Supreme God Miluohu only sighed softly and did not say anything. He then left. As a supreme god, he would not pester endlessly. To them, no matter how talented Lin Feng was, he was just a good seedling. That was all. The next era. Supreme God Anqing stared at Lin Feng and frowned deeply. It was rare to find a disciple that he liked, so he would not give up so easily. However, he also knew that if he did not recruit Lin Feng as his disciple in this era, the chances of him doing so in the next era would be even slimmer. This was because after an epoch, Lin Feng's reputation would definitely soar. When that time came, it would not be just the three of them who would come to recruit him. Sigh. Supreme God Anqing shook his head and left regretfully. The fourth floor of the hall instantly became desolate and silent. In fact, godly venerate powerhouses rarely accepted divine master powerhouses as disciples. After all, there was a huge gap between a peak divine master and a venerate. The stronger the bloodline and the more outstanding the innate talent, the harder it would be to cross this gap. Godly venerates and even stronger Yuan venerates would usually choose from venerates if they wanted to recruit disciples. People like Lin Feng were very rare. Lin Feng's rejection was just a small interlude. 1,000 hidden venerate powerhouses from the training camp were recruited in batches. Most cultivators chose to leave, but a few ambitious ones who wanted to advance further chose to stay. After all, if they could advance further in the next era, they would receive better treatment and more choices. Not every cultivator would be able to find a teacher that they were satisfied with. Huang Qinyan had also rejected. There were dozens of Huang Zun powerhouses who had chosen her, which was far more than Supreme God Gu Lai had expected. However, Huang Qinyan knew very well that she was basking in Lin Feng's glory. Because of Lin Feng, many Huang Zun had come. Huang Qinyan had her own pride. If even Lin Feng was willing to stay in the training camp and continue cultivating diligently, what reason did she have to leave? Huang Qinyan's beautiful eyes gazed at Lin Feng with mixed feelings. There was competition, and an unknown feeling. Chapter 25-34. Pu Kuku, Yi Xiu and the other experts left. The hidden revered training camp experts were reshuffled, but unlike the last era, every cultivator in this era knew that there was no doubt that the first place would be Lin Feng. He was fully deserving of the title of the strongest. At this time, Lin Feng had already returned to the universe area. The survival domain reward was in his hands. All of them were double the newbie's rewards. First place on the newbie ranking, 5,000 Qian Zun point. At the same time, reaching 1,000,000 points and entering the training camp's top 100 would give an extra 5,000 Qian Zun point. Just this alone gave him 10,000 Qian Zun point. Huang Qinyan, who was second place on the newbie ranking, also met the special conditions, but she wasn't first place, so she didn't get any extra rewards, only 3,000 Qian Zun points. Third place, 3,000 Qian Zun points, 6,000 Qian Zun points for newbies. 20 million survival points, 10,000 Qian Zun point. 60 survival crystals, 6,000 Qian Zun point. The newbie reward for killing a giant beast emperor was 3,000 Qian Zun points for the first one, 2,000 Qian Zun points for the second one, 1,000 Qian Zun points for each one. Lin Feng killed 5 in the first emperor domain, and 2 in the second emperor domain given to him by Huang Qinyan, earning him 10,000 Qian Zun points. Just these rewards alone gave him 42,000 Qian Zun point. Other than that, all the treasures he obtained from the Emperor domain could be exchanged for 32890 Qian, revered Luo crystals at half price. The survival domain gave him 74,890 Qian Zun point. A huge amount. I feel like he's going to take all the treasures in the training camp. Supreme God Gulai laughed. He's not that short-sighted. Supreme God Pai Xiu said lightly. Supreme God Gulai nodded. With Lin Feng's personality, he would most likely use these Qian Zun points on the training facilities, but it wouldn't matter even if he used them all for treasures. 74890 Qian Zun points was indeed a lot for a peak godlord, but to sovereigns, especially Huang Zun and other supreme gods, it wasn't much. Do you want to go for the special rewards, or should I? Supreme God Pai Xiu looked at Supreme God Gulai. Go ahead. Supreme God Gulai stretched his back and walked out. I will go and drink with Enqing. That fellow has gone crazy from wanting to have a disciple. It is rare for him to find such a good seedling, but the other party doesn't appreciate it. Hee, let him go back, there's no need to wait any longer. Supreme God Pai Xiu paused and said, I know. Supreme God Gulai waved his hand and disappeared. Inside room 8484, Lin Feng was investigating the last treasure he had obtained from the king's domain, the Rongshu vine. This was a vine with dozens of long whiskers. It was earthy yellow in color and looked like a huge ginseng. In fact, there was not much time left before they entered the last ruler's domain. Lin Feng didn't have any misgivings. With his strength and reputation, he didn't need to worry about being attacked by the god-slaying training camp's expert. When he found the Emperor domain, entered it, killed the 2 ferocious beast emperors guarding it, and obtained the Whisker Vine, the survival realm was nearing its end. 2 effects. The first is to greatly increase the quality of one's soul and slightly strengthen one's will. The second is to expand one's sea of knowledge. It didn't have 2 effects at the same time, but one of the 2. Either use it as soul food and refine it to increase the quality of one's soul and will, or expand one's sea of knowledge by greatly expanding one's sea of knowledge and redefining its boundaries. The information in the top-tier AI was very clear. As for how to choose, it depended on one's needs. Although the Whisker Vine was a grade lower than the Life Ladder, it was still much more precious than the 3-leaf Soul Grass. After all, it was a top-tier treasure from the Emperor domain. Lin Feng still couldn't make a decision. This kind of treasure could only be found by chance and couldn't be exchanged for in the hidden Exalt Luo crystals. No matter how many hidden Exalt points he had, it was useless. Before he fully understood it, he would rather put it aside and not refine it in a hurry. Suddenly, Hua's space rippled. Lin Feng was surprised and turned around. No cultivators were allowed to enter the rooms in the 5 districts of the training camp. The only ones who could enter were the sovereigns in charge of the 5 districts. The woman who appeared in front of him was tall and beautiful. She had a pleasant temperament and a sacred face. She had a unique sense of beauty. Greetings, Supreme God Pai Xiu. Lin Feng slightly bowed. He had just met her in the hall, so he naturally knew her. Lin Feng wasn't surprised by Supreme God Pai Xiu's sudden arrival. Super newbies who met certain conditions would receive extra rewards. The 5,000 hidden exalt points was obviously just a newbie reward and not a real extra reward. So he didn't immediately cultivate after leaving the hall, but waited. Come with me to receive your special reward. Supreme God Pai Xiu saw through Lin Feng with a glance. This brat was young, but he already had a lot of thoughts. It was obvious that he was waiting for her. Oh! Is that whisker vine in your hand? Supreme God Pai Xiu's eyes lit up and stopped. Although she also paid attention to Lin Feng, there was no information about Lin Feng obtaining whisker vine. Supreme God has good eyesight. Lin Feng's heart moved, then slightly bowed. This junior has some doubts. I wonder if Supreme God can give me some pointers. Supreme God Pai Xiu rolled her eyes at Lin Feng, thinking that this brat knew how to take advantage of the situation. What do you choose? Yes. Lin Feng didn't hesitate. In terms of knowledge, Supreme God didn't lack. In terms of understanding, Supreme God Pai Xiu, who was in charge of the 5 districts, was definitely the best. If he didn't ask now, when would he? Do you know the use of the knowledge sea? Supreme God Pai Xiu asked. Lin Feng slightly pondered. Nurturing and nourishing the soul is the key to the transformation of the soul. Supreme God Pai Xiu glanced at Lin Feng. The knowledge sea and the soul complement each other. Nurturing the soul, controlling the soul, accumulating energy, defending against attacks, etc. The further you advance, the more important the knowledge sea becomes. It is closely related to the various aspects of the soul. If you want to walk the path of the one-thought supremacy, strengthening the knowledge sea is indispensable. Not just the whisker vine. If you have the ability to expand the knowledge sea to the limit and integrate it with the chaos treasure, you will benefit a lot when you break through in the future. Lin Feng nodded. Supreme God Pai Xiu's words hit the nail on the head, directly pointing at his weakness. Although his knowledge sea was nourished by the 10,000 origin mustard stone and was constantly expanding, it was not on the same level as the quality of the soul. The 10,000 origin mustard stone couldn't really replace the knowledge sea. Just the transformation of his soul into the chaos soul required a strong knowledge sea. In contrast, his soul quality had almost reached the limit, and there was not much meaning in improving it at the moment. Thank you, Supreme God. Lin Feng thanked from the bottom of his heart. No more questions? Supreme God Pai Xiu lightly said. No. Lin Feng nodded. Follow me. Supreme God Pai Xiu's hand moved, and the space directly shattered, pure origin power surging out. The 2 figures instantly disappeared. Chapter 25-35. Lin Feng followed Divine Pixiu into Qianzuan City. This wasn't the first time he left the training camp. He had been to the main hall to select a teacher, but this time, he didn't enter the main hall, but a treasury. You should know how precious an ultimate heavenly path true treasure is. Divine Pixiu led Lin Feng into the treasury. Yes. Lin Feng nodded. Only a small number of ultimate heavenly path true treasures existed in the universe's secret realms. The vast majority of supreme heavenly Tao treasures were refined by treasure refinement grandmasters through blood, sweat, and tears. Their essence, energy, and spirit were all in perfect harmony. Only then would they have a small chance of successfully refining them. Chaos Chi would descend from the heavens, causing them to transform into supreme heavenly Tao treasures. It could be said that this was the highest level treasure that could be made in the universe. A treasure refinement master might not be able to make an ultimate heavenly path true treasure in his lifetime. They were even rarer than the Chaos Ultimate Treasures, so they were rare even among the supremacies. Compared to the Chaos Ultimate Treasures, the ultimate treasures of the Heavenly Tao were refined and easier to master and integrate with. Therefore, they were favored by the Supremacy Ultimate Treasures of the Heavenly Tao. When you become a venerable and no longer need this ultimate heavenly path true treasure, I hope you can return it to the 7th Mercenary Alliance, Divine Pixiu said. Of course. Lin Feng wasn't a greedy person. It was a gift from the 7th Mercenary Alliance, so it was reasonable for him to return it in the future. If he had the ability, he should give it a little more. Okay. Divine Pishio nodded lightly, seeming to be satisfied with Lin Feng's answer without hesitation. He said, "Do you know that there are 4 levels to the selection of ultimate heavenly treasure?" Just a little. Lin Feng had heard Venerable Nan Chiu mention that it could be found in the top artificial intelligence. Among the same heavenly path true treasures, the ordinary defense type was the worst, the attack type and control type were much better, the weapon type and space type were undoubtedly better, and the palace type, the special type, and the domain type were the best among the same type of heavenly path true treasures. First place on the ranking list, reaching level 80 in the dangerous natural region, could choose a 4th grade ultimate heavenly path true treasure. First place on the ranking board. You have reached level 85 in the dangerous natural region. You can choose a 3rd grade ultimate heavenly axiom treasure. Once you reach level 90 in the dangerous natural region, you will be able to choose a 2nd grade ultimate heavenly axiom treasure. You are ranked 1st in the overall ranking. You have reached level 95 in the dangerous natural domain. You can choose the 1st grade ultimate heavenly axiom treasure. The special conditions of a super rookie are also divided into 4 levels. Divine Master Pai Xiu said, "First place on the newcomer ranking is a requirement, and the additional requirement is the ranking on the rating board. The top 10 in the training camp can choose a 4th grade ultimate heavenly law cardinal treasure. The top 3 in the training camp can choose a 3rd grade ultimate heavenly law cardinal treasure. Those who rank 1st in the training camp can choose a 2nd grade ultimate heavenly law cardinal treasure. The top 1 in the overall ranking of the training camp can choose the 1st grade ultimate heavenly Tao cardinal treasure." Lin Feng nodded. Therefore, he could only choose a 3rd grade ultimate heavenly Tao cardinal treasure. Such high standard. Lin Feng couldn't help but sigh in his heart. He felt that he'd done his best and performed outstandingly, but he was still barely qualified to choose a 3rd grade supreme treasure of the heavenly Tao. However, there was a reason why the training camp was set up this way. It's good enough that you can get it. Divine Master Pai Xiu seemed to be able to see through Lin Feng's thoughts and said lightly, "This hidden reward for special rookies hasn't been obtained for nearly 1,000,000 eras. It was indeed difficult. Even if it was a 4th grade ultimate heavenly law cardinal treasure, the rookie had to enter the top 10. That was a rookie. It was easier said than done to enter the top 10. However, if it was so easy to get, the ultimate heavenly law cardinal treasure wouldn't be so precious. We're here." Divine Master Pai Xiu pressed his palm in front of a blue door in front of the treasury. A wave of ripples flickered, and the door suddenly turned into a void. Lin Feng stepped in with Divine Master Pai Xiu, and the door behind him returned to its original state. What he saw wasn't as dazzling as he imagined. Instead, it was clean and clear. 17? Lin Feng was slightly stunned. He guessed that ultimate heavenly law cardinal treasures were rare, but he didn't expect it to be so rare. Divine Master Pai Xiu said lightly, "There are less than 10,000 ultimate heavenly law cardinal treasures in the 7th Mercenary Alliance. More than 98% of them already have owners. There are only 147 ultimate heavenly law cardinal treasures left." Lin Feng nodded. It was a waste to leave treasures unused. Moreover, the top ranker in every era would be rewarded with an ultimate heavenly law cardinal treasure when he or she reached a level of 80 in the dangerous heaven region. Therefore, the consumption of the ultimate heavenly law cardinal treasure was faster. As for the creation of the ultimate heavenly law cardinal treasure, it depended on luck. No wonder Divine Master Pai Xiu reminded him that he hoped he could return the ultimate heavenly law cardinal treasure to the 7th Mercenary Alliance when he didn't need it. Ultimate heavenly law cardinal treasures are mostly used by rookies at the peak of the almighty level. There are currently 66 in Qianzuan City and 51 in Tianhuang Secret Land. Tianhuang Secret Land? Lin Feng's heart skipped a beat. He knew it was one of the 7 main branches of the 7th Mercenary Alliance when the hall was recruiting disciples. It was as famous as Qianzuan City, and was one of the 2 sacred grounds for cultivating peak almighty overlords. All the super geniuses could choose to enter Tianhuang's secret land. There were overlords there and plenty of resources for almighty overlords to cultivate in seclusion and become overlord. However, he didn't choose that path back then. There are 4 ultimate heavenly law cardinal treasures in Qianzuan City. There are 29 of them in the 4th tier, 17 in the 3rd tier, 14 in the 2nd tier and 6 in the 1st tier, Divine Master Pai Xiu said calmly. Divine Venerable Pai Xiu's expression was indifferent. If you can't find anything you like in the 3rd tier, you can also move to the 4th tier. Let me take a look first. Lin Feng didn't rush to make a decision. Normally, the ultimate heavenly law cardinal treasures in the 3rd tier were of better quality, but there were only 17 of them. There might not be anything suitable for him. After all, he relied more on his blade techniques in battles. It might not be good if he relied too much on treasures. Most of the ultimate heavenly law cardinal treasures in the 3rd tier were offensive and control-type treasures. They might not be suitable for him. On the other hand, there were many defensive ultimate heavenly law cardinal treasures in the 4th tier that could make up for his weakness. He didn't want to make a decision so easily. He had to see all 17 ultimate heavenly law cardinal treasures first. Ingui Space Element Offensive Type. It has an extremely long attack range, and can lock on its own. Divine Master Pai Xiu stood beside Lin Feng and introduced briefly. 1000 Light Element, Time Element, Offensive Type. It's very powerful in one-on-one battles, and can be very useful in group battles. Luo E Divine Painting, Combination of Earth and Wind, Control Type. It's not suitable for you. Chapter 2536. 17 Ultimate Heavenly Tao Absolute Treasures were not a lot. Moreover, many of them were of the fusion type. Although Lin Feng's attainments in the light and darkness laws of Heavenly Tao were extremely high, his own limitations were actually higher because only the fusion of light and darkness was suitable for the fusion of the myriad phenomena Heavenly Tao. The fusion of light and darkness was extremely rare even for pinnacle Heavenly Tao absolute treasures, let alone ultimate Heavenly Tao absolute treasures. It was still unknown whether there were such treasures. Therefore, the range of choices was more concentrated on the time and space Heavenly Tao alone. Firstly, the comprehension was more direct and clearer. Secondly, the power that could be unleashed in battle was stronger. The power of an ultimate Heavenly Tao absolute treasure was equivalent to that of an ordinary Chaos absolute treasure. Lin Feng knew very well that it would be of great use now, especially since he would be heading to the Netherworld Secret Realm soon. The Universe Secret Realm was a place where venerables stayed, especially the Netherworld Secret Realm itself had very high restrictions. Only venerables could enter. When the time came, they would have to face enemies at the venerable level. Ordinary venerables above 90% did not have an absolute treasure of chaos. In other words, obtaining and completely controlling an ultimate Heavenly Tao absolute treasure would greatly increase one's combat power. Gilt Eagle, Space Type, Attack Type, has an extremely long attack range and the ability to lock on automatically. Cut-off Wheel, Time Type, Attack Type, has a strong instantaneous explosive power, has a miraculous effect on cultivators with weak willpower. Lin Feng finally locked on to these 2 ultimate Heavenly Tao absolute treasures. There were only 2 independent space and time type treasures. The Gilt Eagle was shaped like the sharp beak of a goshawk. Its golden color was mixed with black ripples, and rich space energy was contained within. It was like a terrifying weapon that would tear its prey apart once it was hit. The cut-off wheel was in the shape of a segmented waterfall. To the naked eye, it looked like a waterfall flowing down, but upon closer inspection, it looked like it was flowing up against the current. However, if one looked closely, they would see the still appearance of the waterfall. Time heavenly Tao was often closely related to one's soul, so the feeling was clearer and more comfortable. One was a long-range attack type, while the other was a close combat type. Compared to the attack type, Lin Feng preferred the control type. This was because the saber technique itself was a strong attack type. Adding another attack type treasure would just be icing on the cake, and it would not achieve the perfect effect. However, independent space and time type treasures were popular. Regardless of whether it was the lineage of the space supremacy or the lineage of the time supremacy, they would be able to control it. Even experts who cultivated the myriad phenomena heavenly way would be able to use it. The two items that were left behind were newly put on the shelf. One was made less than 100 eras ago, and the other was Pai Pai. Huang Zun no longer needed it, so he returned it to the treasury. To me, in terms of power, I can unleash 120% of the treasure's effect. Moreover, my willpower is strong enough. It might have a miraculous effect on venerables with weak willpower, but Lin Feng also knew that even if a venerable one's willpower was weak, how weak could it be? Willpower was an important indicator and requirement for one to advance from a peak divine master to a venerable. Therefore, the additional effect of the cut-off wheel was actually very weak. Guillotine's attack range and auto-targeting ability are not bad, but its weaknesses are also very obvious. Firstly, it is useless at close range. Secondly, it requires extremely high attainments in the Tao of Space. Only after reaching the 9th level of the Tao of Space can one perfectly control it. Lin Feng pursed his lips. When one's comprehension of the Tao of Space reached the 9th level, one could already become a space supremacy. Unlike universe supremacies and Vajra supremacies, the biggest shackles for space supremacy and time supremacy were actually comprehending the 9th level of the Tao of Space and time. Each had its own shortcomings. Therefore, although these two ultimate heavenly path true treasures were good, they still did not have an owner. Lin Feng fell into deep thought. He even had the idea of going to the 4th grade treasury to look for a defensive ultimate heavenly path true treasure. However, when the opponent was a venerable, a defensive ultimate heavenly path true treasure was obviously inferior to an offensive one. The best choice was naturally to enter the 2nd grade treasury to choose. There might even be weapons that he might be suitable for. An ultimate heavenly path true treasure weapon would undoubtedly increase one's combat power. Unfortunately, he did not have enough authority. Lin Feng was not worried because he would have 99% of the qualifications in the next era. This ultimate heavenly path true treasure weapon had long been in his plans. As for now, Lin Feng hesitated for a while and asked, "Sir Ultimate God, can you give me a suggestion?" Not only was Pai Xiu Supreme God experienced, but she was also very familiar with these ultimate heavenly path true treasures, including their functions, weaknesses, and so on. She also knew his situation like the back of her hand. Pai Xiu Supreme God looked at Lin Feng indifferently and pointed her white jade-like finger. It was not the eagle gilt, nor was it the wheel of severance. Instead, it was a pure white treasure that resembled a Buddha's hand. It lay there quietly. It was so pure as if it posed no threat at all. Among the 17 supreme treasures of the heavenly path, it seemed so special. 1,000-cut needle. Lin Feng sneered. Pai Xiu Supreme God had briefly introduced it before, but he had directly ignored it. This was also an offensive treasure, but it was a soul control type. His soul control was not ordinary, but very poor. Choose this. Lin Feng frowned slightly. He also knew what Pai Xiu Supreme God was thinking. She knew that his soul attack was very strong, comparable to that of a one-thought knight, so he could kill the trout dragon. But she only knew one thing and did not know the other. His soul was pure and his will was strong, but his sea of consciousness was not vast, and soul control was even weaker. To him, the 1,000-cut needle was just a beautiful decoration. Compared to Ingdu and the cutting wheel, He needed more time to familiarize himself with it before he could fully control it. In terms of value, the 1000-cut needle is more valuable than Ingdu and the cutting wheel combined. Pai Xiu Supreme God's beautiful eyes flashed. She was very clear about the two ultimate heavenly path true treasures that Lin Feng was interested in. However, there are not many cultivators who are good at soul control, and even fewer cultivators who are one-thought knights. That's why it was not chosen. In addition to the 4 forms of attack, the 1000-cut needle itself is also a treasure that is very worthy of consideration and cultivation. It assists in improving soul control, and I think it is very suitable for you. Lin Feng's heart trembled. Assists in cultivation? The 1000-cut needle can help improve soul control? Lin Feng was pleasantly surprised. Pai Xiu Supreme God nodded. There is only one set of top training facilities in other areas, the 100 Million Streams Maze. If you want to improve soul control, you can go there and get twice the result with half the effort. The 1000-cut needle itself is the weapon of one thought knight. If you can perfectly control it, its value is not inferior to the second-grade ultimate heavenly path true treasures. Thank you, Supreme God. Lin Feng bowed. If so, it would be completely different. Not to mention the attack power, just the ability to assist in cultivation was something he urgently needed. Of the 4 elements of one thought knight soul cultivation, his weakest was soul control. This is it. Lin Feng smiled with satisfaction. Chapter 2537. He took the needle. The first ultimate heavenly path treasure. Although this ultimate heavenly path treasure couldn't be used to its full potential, Lin Feng wasn't in a hurry. He still had to stay in the training camp for a long time, so he couldn't enter the Netherworld secret realm so early. In the training camp, his current strength was enough. What's more, he could get the second ultimate heavenly path treasure at the end of the next era, which was also what he needed urgently. It could greatly increase his combat power. Weapon. Although Di-Yin was very strong, it couldn't be compared to the ultimate heavenly path treasure that was comparable to the chaos treasure. Su Rong Vine, refine. With Pai Xiu Supreme God's guidance, Lin Feng was no longer confused. The Su Rong Vine turned into nourishment for his consciousness, quickly refining and expanding it. 10,000 origin mustard stones nurturing mostly depended on the quality of the soul. The expansion of the consciousness was only an additional effect. Lin Feng didn't plan to take the path of one thought knight. In fact, he hadn't decided which path to take. For Lin Feng, there were too many paths to take. Universe Knight, Diamond Knight, Space Knight, Time Knight, all of them could be achieved. Even one thought knight, who he didn't think about before, had a chance after taking the needle. But it was still too early to decide. No matter which path I take, the body, soul, and willpower are the foundation of the foundation. Lin Feng was very clear about returning to the origin, which was why he chose the 1000-segmented needle, choosing the path of cultivation of the one-thought sage. Even if he didn't become one thought knight and didn't walk the path of the soul. At the very least, he had to transform his soul into the soul of chaos. Lin Feng firmly believed in the wooden bucket theory. The limit of the future depended on the lowest plank. Hidden Knight Training Camp, Universe Area. The super newcomer from the last era, Lin Feng, stayed. Yes, I heard about it too. He's too awesome. You guys don't know, but there were hundreds and thousands of Huang Zun and knights who wanted to take Lin Feng as their disciple. The scene was shocking. And guess what? Lin Feng rejected all of them. More than that. My brother said that 3 other ultimate gods came to take Lin Feng as their disciple. F***ck, is this for real? Don't talk nonsense. If the Supreme Divinity really wanted a disciple, why wouldn't Lin Feng agree? This is a great opportunity for the carp to leap over the dragon gate and reach the heavens in a single bound. Don't use your thoughts to guess super geniuses. People like Lin Feng are rare in the entire universe. No matter when he leaves the training camp, There will be divine masters fighting to take him in as a disciple. Do you think he's like us? We don't even have an ordinary venerable to be our teacher. Alright, don't be envious. Even Huang Qinyan's starlight has dimmed compared to Lin Feng. What are we? Do you feel better thinking like this? No matter what, in the next era, our universe region will be the strongest again, ha 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 ha. That goes without saying. The other 4 districts are going to die of envy. The group of cultivators felt proud and happy. Especially those cultivators who came from the Xingfeng astral realm like Lin Feng. They were now in high demand. Wherever they went, people would try to curry favor with them. The 100-year rest period was the best time for the cultivators in the training camp to rest and adjust. A group of old people left and a group of new people entered. The hidden venerable training camp still maintained its strong competitiveness and sent out a large number of talents for the 7th Mercenary Alliance. However, the cultivators in the universe region were only happy for a few days when they heard a big piece of news that shocked them. Lin Feng left the universe region. Ha ha ha, Lin Feng came to the King Kong district. Those big pussies in the universe region were shocked. They didn't expect it at all. Strange, isn't Lin Feng a human? Why would he come to the King Kong district? Is his body that strong? Walking the path of a King Kong venerable? Could it be that he's gone crazy? Who knows? I think it might be fake news. Lin Feng can't come to the King Kong district. The King Kong district was full of doubts. Everyone didn't understand why Lin Feng suddenly came to the King Kong district. Some even suspected that it was fake news. After all, it was strange for a human with top-notch aptitude to come to the King Kong district. But as Lin Feng kept appearing in the King Kong district, all the rumors were shattered. Lin Feng did come to the King Kong district. Most humans cultivated in the universe region because it was the easiest to become a universe venerable by cultivating the myriad phenomena great path. It was also the most suitable path for humans. The King Kong district required tyrannical physical strength. Most of them were great beings from the demon clan. There were also some godly beasts and ferocious beasts, as well as a few great beings from the demon clan. Lin Feng was the only human inside. He was all alone and seemed very out of place. What was he doing here? Was he provoking them? Many great beings from the demon clan were unhappy. Lin Feng was stronger than them, but now he came to the King Kong district to compete with them in physical strength. Wasn't he looking down on them? I'm definitely the strongest in terms of pure strength. You only have brute strength. Who do you think you are? If you have the ability, why don't you go to the Mixed Strength Void Palace to compete? Bah! Why don't you go compete with Nightmare Demon Land? You're only at the initial stage of the Mixed Strength Heavenly Path, and you still dare to pretend in front of me. If you have the guts, go to the Infinite Gravity Room and compete. Nightmare Demon Land, a great being from the King Kong district. Like Lin Feng and Huang Qinyan, he also stayed. He was ranked 89th in the last era, which was actually not bad. But Nightmare Demon Land believed that he still had a lot of potential and could continue to improve, so he wanted to stay for another era. He was originally from the 7th Demon Clan. After a fortuitous encounter, he obtained the Chaotic Body. Nightmare Demon Land's Mixed Strength Heavenly Path had reached the limit of great success. Therefore, he was famous in the King Kong district. The Mixed Strength Void Palace was one of the training facilities in the King Kong district. The cultivators who entered would turn their bodies into shadows. In the Mixed Strength Void Palace, only mixed strength could be used. The strength was completely dependent on the use of mixed strength and combat ability. In the King Kong district, it was one of the more commonly used training facilities. Because the Demon Clan had always been brave and fierce, they respected the strong. As for the Infinite Gravity Room, it was a training facility that increased the strength of the body in all aspects. To become a King Kong venerable, besides the comprehension and use of strength, the strength of the cultivator's own body was also very important. To become a King Kong Venerable, the body first had to be able to withstand the mixed strength of a venerable and perfectly transform the body. Lin Feng's entry was a small interlude in the King Kong district. Every cultivator had the right to change districts in every era. Changing districts was very normal, and it didn't mean anything. Entering the King Kong district might only be to temper the body. Entering the time district might only be to assist in cultivating the heavenly path of time. It didn't mean that one had to walk this path. But what the cultivators in the King Kong district didn't expect was, after the 100-year rest period, Lin Feng set off a perilous wave in the King Kong district. Chapter 2538. There was a transparent light screen outside the endless gravity chamber. On the left side of the screen were engraved names that inspired reverence and awe. 1. Tu Por 100000. 2. Yuman 91277. 3. Yuman 89395. 100. Yuman 69816. Cultivators from the Diamond District could be seen from time to time. Their eyes were burning with reverence as they stared at these names. Many of them were kneeling on the ground with their eyes closed like devout believers. The endless gravity chamber wasn't the best training facility in the Diamond District, but it was definitely the training facility that attracted the most attention and most cultivators entered. It was because of the existence of these names. However, the people who usually looked at these names were some powerhouses from the demon race and the demon race. Now, there was an ordinary-looking human in martial attire with a calm expression. However, his eyes were burning with passion. This is the wonder of the Diamond District. Lin Feng's heart was burning with passion as he looked at these names. Who was Tu Por ranked first? Patriarch Tu Por, the founder of the 7th Mercenary Alliance. Who was Yuman ranked second? He was the strongest Yuan Venerate of the human lineage of the 7th Mercenary Alliance's 7 main lineages. Every one of them was a well-known figure. Although many of the names were unfamiliar, Lin Feng knew that they were the backbone of the 7th Mercenary Alliance. They were elusive godly Venerates and even Yuan Venerates. How impressive! Lin Feng browsed through the list several times. The limit of the endless gravity chamber was 100,000 seconds. The gravity would increase every second until the cultivator couldn't bear it anymore. Every 10,000 seconds represented a level. It was clear that the Yuan Venerates of the human sect had surpassed the other 98 powerhouses. Of course, even Yuman E, ranked 100th, was close to 70,000 seconds. As for Patriarch Tu Por, he was already an almighty when he obtained the endless gravity chamber. This ranking was a historical record of all the peak almighty powerhouses of the 7th Mercenary Alliance that had entered the Diamond District. As for the ranking on the right screen, it was rather ordinary. The first ranked Ape Fiend only had 18,640 seconds. The second ranked Nightmare Fiendland only had 15,733 seconds. The 11th ranked Demon Monarch Xuanshan didn't even have 10,000 seconds. This era's ranking. Lin Feng then stepped into the infinite gravity room. As far as he knew, the previous record of the Diamond District was only 25,121 seconds. Naturally, the records of the current epoch and the historical records differed greatly. Cut. Crack. Boundless gravity pressed down from all directions, as if countless Mount Buzhou were falling from all directions. Lin Feng looked straight ahead of the sealed space, at the countdown timer that exceeded 20,000. His expression was extremely solemn. It was more difficult than he had imagined. Yuan Venerate Wan Men is truly terrifying. Lin Feng recalled the record set by Yuan Venerate Yun Men. If he exceeded 90,000 seconds, how terrifying would the gravity be? He reckoned that he would be crushed in an instant. No wonder they were one of the 7 main branches of the 7th Mercenary Alliance. There was always a mountain higher than another. Yuan Venerate Yun Men was much more legendary than me when he was in the hidden Venerate training camp. Lin Feng had also made a few friends in the Diamond District. The legends of Yuan Venerate Yunmen had been passed down there, which made people revere him. He had only stayed in the training camp for one epoch. However, he had taken first place on the overall ranking list, first place in the combat domain, first place in the survival domain, and first place in the dangerous sky region. After becoming a Venerate, he had advanced by leaps and bounds without any bottleneck. He had gone from Huang Zun to a godly Venerate and then to Yuan Venerate. Later on, he had established the Yunmen sect. I am still far from being able to compare to Yuan Venerate Yunmen. Lin Feng did not become arrogant because of the craziness of the first epoch. Yuan Venerate Yunmen was not the only one. In the long history of the hidden Venerate training camp, there were too many outstanding universe supreme figures. He had only been accepted as a disciple by 3 godly Venerate powerhouses, while Yuan Venerate Yunmen had attracted many Yuan Venerate powerhouses. Furthermore, Yuan Venerate Yunmen had obtained 2 ultimate heavenly Tao treasures in one go, both of which were first-grade treasures. This was the foundation of the 7th Mercenary Alliance, one of the 5 great magnates. When a territory was large enough, as time passed, there would always be a few outstanding super geniuses that would make the entire universe sigh in admiration. He was still very ordinary. I haven't reached my limit yet. Lin Feng frowned deeply. All the muscles in his body were tense like steel blocks. His body trembled violently and his blood vessels protruded under the pressure of the boundless gravitational force. Lin Feng's perseverance and fighting spirit were forced out in front of him. At present, Lin Feng was indeed inferior to Yunmen. However, Lin Feng did not know that Yuan Venerate Yunmen was a transcendent being who was unique in the entire universe. He was born with a perfect chaotic body and a chaotic soul. He had joined the 7th Mercenary Alliance early on and had been nurtured in the most perfect way. He was extremely talented, had the guidance of a Yuan Venerate powerhouse, and had countless treasures. In addition, Yunmen had worked hard. It was both accidental and inevitable that he would become a supreme talent. Lin Feng was just a human. Wow. Not long after Lin Feng left the endless gravitational room, the entire Diamond District gasped. On the ranking list on the right side of the screen, the demonic ape had been pushed to second place. A new record had been created. 1. Lin Feng 28880. He had lasted 10,000 seconds longer than the second-place demonic ape. It had even surpassed the previous era's record. The current era had only just begun. Monster. This fellow is definitely a monster. He must be a special life form. He just looks like a human. I don't believe that a human has such a physical body. No wonder his strength improved so quickly. His innate conditions are too good. Human? What a joke. If a human had such a body, I would cut off my head and let you sit on it. There was a heated discussion in the Diamond District. Lin Feng's first round of attacks had been too ruthless. 28,880 seconds. They were about to explode on the spot. It was almost certain that no other cultivator would be able to break the record of the endless gravitational room in this era. Lin Feng didn't care what others thought. He had come to the Diamond District for the training facilities. The 5 districts had their own unique training facilities that could help one become a venerable. More than half of the training facilities in the Diamond District were related to the physical body and mixed power. They were extremely useful for Lin Feng. Lin Feng had seen the hope of breaking through to the great success realm after the battle with Trout Dragon. Although my body doesn't have any strong points, it doesn't have any weak points either. Lin Feng wasn't very satisfied with his record of 28,880 seconds. Although he was a human with congenital limitations, he had made up for it a lot. Every level of his foundation was very solid. Coupled with the bloodline awakening and the perfect chaotic body, it was normal that he was stronger than the super geniuses of the demon race. That was the perfect chaotic body. It's not difficult to increase it to 30,000 seconds. My goal is to increase it to 50,000 seconds in this era and completely control my physical body and break through the great success realm and reach the perfect chaotic body. Chapter 2539. Perfect control of one's body was a must for Vajra supremacies. This was because their body was the source of their power. Being able to perfectly control one's body would not only allow one to use it more directly and concisely in battle, but also allow one to unleash their power to the limit. Power was an illusory yet corporeal existence. All kinds of power were actually in the universe. In the end, they were all the power of the universe. It was a solid existence and a component of the universe. It was more direct than energy and could be seen with one's eyes. This was because the body itself was a part of the universe. It was material and the existence of power. Vajra supremacies have three main elements. The first is the control of the body, which is similar to the control of the soul. The higher the control, the stronger the chaos power. Of course, the strength of the body itself is the foundation. If the foundation is not strong, it will be difficult to unleash it no matter how much control one has. The second is the chaos power itself. This is the foundation of the foundation. It is similar to the soul quality of one thought supremacy, but it is also different. The chaos power itself is composed of two aspects. One is the quantity and the other is the degree of perfection. An ordinary Vajra supremacy's chaos power was 1, and the degree of perfection was also 1. The foundation of the chaos power was 1. His quantity was far inferior to a supremacy. After all, he was only a peak divine master. However, his degree of perfection was higher than that of an ordinary Vajra supremacy. The perfect chaos power formed by the perfect chaos body has a degree of perfection of 100 times. However, I have yet to become a supremacy. My body is not perfect, so my chaos power cannot reach 100 times. All in all, my chaos power is about 10 times, which is comparable to a mid-level supremacy. The third is the chaos power realm. The phenomenal success of the chaos power realm is the necessary condition to become a Vajra supremacy. It is 1 times. The perfect chaos power realm is 10 times. Every district had all the complete cultivation information and the advancement laws of their respective districts. The rules and regulations under each foundation, and even the minor details, were very clear. These could be learned as long as one found the right teacher. However, Lin Feng did not have a teacher, so he had to find the information himself. This wasn't some secret technique in the first place. The 5 great leaders naturally wouldn't hide something as basic as this. Simply put, the advancement from a Vajra supremacy to a Vajra Huang Zun depended on 3 aspects: the control of the body, the chaos power itself, and the chaos power realm. The 3 of them existed in a complementary relationship. Once they reached 10,000 times mixed power, they could transform into perfect mixed power and advance to Vajra Huang Zun. No wonder Trout Dragon is ranked at the top of the 2 training camps. With the perfect realm of mixed strength and the innate chaotic body, Trout Dragon is even stronger than ordinary mid-level supremacies in terms of Vajra supremacy strength. Back then, he was able to defeat the Trout Dragon mainly because of his soul attack. However, after this epoch, I will be able to defeat him in close combat. Lin Feng stood in the vast world of chaotic power, waving the War Saber Emperor concealment crazily. His perfect Hundun body was in perfect harmony with the surrounding environment, and his comprehension gushed out like a tide. He was like an artist. At this moment, countless images appeared in his mind, and inspiration flowed endlessly. Chaos Space. 50 Qian Zun points, 10 years. It was expensive, but to a rich man like Lin Feng, it was nothing. Even if he cultivated for 1,000 years, it would only be 5,000 hidden revered points. However, would he need 1,000 years to break through the limit of large success to the perfect mixed strength realm? He had fought with Trout Dragon before and had come into contact with the perfect mixed strength realm. Furthermore, he had obtained a large amount of theoretical knowledge in the Vajra region. Coupled with the unique cultivation environment of the chaos space, Lin Feng was 100% confident that he could reach the perfect mixed strength realm. If Trout Dragon could reach it, then he could too. Reach the top. At the beginning of this epoch, Lin Feng was still ranked in the top 100. However, from the 1000th year onwards, Lin Feng's score skyrocketed. In the 2000th year, he squeezed into the top 10. In the 3000th year, he entered the top 3. In less than 4,000 years, he reached the top. To the cultivators of the hidden revered training camp, this was both unexpected and expected. There was no need to prove Lin Feng's strength anymore. In the last epoch, he had slaughtered everyone in the survival zone. On the contrary, everyone sighed at Huang Qinyan's current 5th place. Although this was only the second epoch since she entered the training camp, there were already signs of her strength. After this epoch ended, it was very likely that she would enter the top 3. In any epoch, Huang Qinyan would be a talented super newcomer. However, she was born in the same epoch as Lin Feng and was overshadowed by him. The cultivators of the hidden revered training camp only had one expectation for Lin Feng: first place on the overall score list. And this expectation was easily fulfilled by Lin Feng in the 5000th year. Without any suspense, Lin Feng easily entered the top 100 in the combat zone and defeated the experts of the deicide training camp in an unparalleled manner. He directly reached the top of the overall score list. The experts of the deicide training camp still had a glimmer of hope before. However, when they discovered that Lin Feng's Chaos Heavenly Path had reached the perfect mixed strength realm, all their hopes were dashed. Even Vajra supremacies who had reached the perfect mixed strength realm were less than 10%. However, no one knew that Lin Feng had not even displayed half of his strength in the combat zone. Aurora's 7th move was close to greater mastery. Intent Realm Heavenly Path was exquisite to the extreme. The current Lin Feng was extraordinarily strong. If it weren't for the slow leveling of the dangerous zone, Lin Feng would have already reached the top of the ranking list. Top-level Intent Realm Heavenly Path. This is Aurora's top-level Intent Realm Heavenly Path. Lin Feng's eyes shone brightly. Holding the saber in his hand, Di-Ying stood firm in the dangerous zone. Even the power coefficient of the dangerous zone at level 90 couldn't cause any trouble for him. It should be known that it was impossible to resist the dangerous zone with soul attack. It was only a matter of physical resistance and attack defense. Dangerous zone at level 91. Lin Feng had reached a new level, which also meant that his close combat ability had truly surpassed Trout Dragon and Taigen Decidua in the last epoch. And this was still not the limit. First place on the ranking list only had one chance to get the ultimate treasure of the Heavenly Path. If he took first place the second time, there would be no reward. Therefore, Pu Kiki chose to give up and leave, even though his level in the dangerous zone was very close to level 80. Lin Feng wasn't first place on the ranking list in the first epoch. He was in this epoch. In the dangerous zone at level 80 to 84, he would get a 4th-tier ultimate treasure of the Heavenly Path. In the dangerous zone at level 85 to 89, he would get a 3rd-tier ultimate treasure of the Heavenly Path. In the dangerous zone at level 90 to 94, he would get a 2nd-tier ultimate treasure of the Heavenly Path. In the dangerous zone at level 95 to 99, he would get a 1st-tier ultimate treasure of the Heavenly Path. If you want to take it, take the best. Lin Feng's combat power soared to the limit. The perfect mixed strength realm Heavenly Path condensed in his body like a thunderbolt. Aurora instantly filled the sky, crazily destroying all the thunderbolt. The entire sky returned to normal. Level 95 in the dangerous zone passed. It's time to go to the survival zone. Lin Feng left the dangerous zone. Chapter 2540. Level 95 wasn't Lin Feng's current limit, but it wasn't too far off. At the very least, Lin Feng knew that he couldn't compare to Yuan Venerate Yunmen. Yuan Venerate Yunmen had reached level 99 in the first era, while Lin Feng was already in the second era. He was confident in reaching level 95, but only 50% at level 96. As for level 97, his success rate was less than 10%. Let's see what good things the survival domain has in this era. The current Lin Feng had already surpassed the cultivators of the two training camp. His overall score was far ahead, and no one could compete with him. Although the God Slayer training camp still occupied the second and third spots, everyone knew the difference in strength between them and Lin Feng. In the last era, even the twin star emperors, Trout Dragon and Taigen Decidua, had been defeated by Lin Feng. Now, Lin Feng's level in the danger domain was on a completely different level. F***CK, it's the Saber Emperor! Oh my god, run! Too unlucky! The moment the 7 deicide training camp practitioners saw Lin Feng, they were like mice that had seen a cat. They were so scared that their souls left their bodies, and they instantly fled in 7 different directions. In the last era, Lin Feng was known as the Saber Monarch of Aurora. In this era, he was known as the Saber Emperor. This showed how important Lin Feng was in the hearts of the God Slayer training camp cultivators. Lin Feng didn't chase them. Killing these small fries wouldn't help him increase his survival point. Finding the Emperor domain was the most important thing. In fact, the survival crystals and survival points didn't mean much to Lin Feng at the moment. They were only used to exchange for Qian Revered Point. However, he didn't lack Qian Revered Point. What he lacked were top-grade treasures like the Su Rongmen and the Mega Beast Emperor's Mega Beast Core. The 7th move of Aurora was close to great success. What it lacked was a secret technique that was compatible with time and space. The 8th move, however, had a suitable Mega Beast Core. Emperor Domain? Lin Feng looked at the information on the hidden revered Luo crystal and opened the map. There was a clear white dot flashing on it. It's not far, let's go. With his reputation, Lin Feng had a special position in the hidden Zun training camp, and he had made many friends. Even though the survival domain didn't allow King Domain and Emperor Domain to trade rewards openly, secretly, or privately, the survival domain didn't allow King Domain and Emperor Domain to trade rewards. However, this kind of person who was willing to tell him directly was not one of them. In addition, Lin Feng had a good temper and was a generous person. Naturally, many cultivators were willing to offer up the position of King Domain to him. After all, not everyone had the strength to challenge the King's Domain. He would only take the appropriate treasures. Lin Feng wasn't greedy and didn't take any of the other treasures. After all, he was worried that he would attract the attention of Qian Zun City and be warned by the Honorable One. Although there were some things that weren't stated in the rules, you had to know your limit. You couldn't just do whatever you wanted. If you take all the treasures, what about the other cultivators? Moreover, what Lin Feng really wanted was the position of Emperor Domain. However, the Emperor Domain did not have direct coordinate. Instead, it required a certain amount of luck to enter. Most importantly, entering the Emperor Domain was not like entering the King Domain, where one could enter and exit directly. Unless one was strong enough, such as Huang Qinyan that day. Most cultivators would die after entering a ruler's domain. Out of the 108 ruler domains, only 10 to 20 were discovered in each era. Lin Feng's luck wasn't very good, but casting a large net, after waiting for 50 years, he still had some gains. The first Emperor Domain he entered, he obtained a spatial expansion fruit. Increase my spatial sensing ability. That's a coincidence. With my spatial sensing ability, it should increase by 5 to 10 times. Although it's only temporary, it's still useful for now. Lin Feng was satisfied. What could he do by increasing his spatial sensing ability? Help him comprehend the spatial laws. To become a space sovereign, the most important thing was to comprehend the level 9 spatial laws. Comprehension was one aspect, spatial sensing was another, resonance with spatial energy, touch of spatial laws, control of spatial heavenly laws, and so on. There was a huge difference between a peak divine lord's spatial sensing ability and a space sovereign's spatial sensing ability. Even the most ordinary ones would increase their spatial sensing ability by 10 times after advancing. It was very common for those with excellent aptitudes to increase their spatial sensing ability by 100 times. Therefore, to Lin Feng, this spatial expansion fruit was only useful for now. It wouldn't be of much use after becoming a space sovereign. However, it was undeniable that he needed it now. The treasures from the Emperor domain are indeed better than those from the King's domain. Before entering this ruler's domain, Lin Feng had entered a total of 10 King's domains, but he had only taken away 2 treasures. One was to slightly increase one's life rating. Although Lin Feng's life rating was very high, this kind of thing was very rare. No matter how small a mosquito was, it was still meat. Lin Feng wouldn't miss it. The other one was to increase one's soul control. Increasing one's foundation was a shortcoming, so it was naturally suitable. Although the rest of the treasures were not bad, and there were a few that could be used as icing on the cake, Lin Feng did not take them. After all, he had scruples in his heart. He still had to enter the survival domain, and it was not a smart thing to do to be targeted by the Venerable One. Gulp. Lin Feng directly swallowed the spatial expansion fruit. Qianzuan City, Survival Domain. Dong Ji Huang Zun and Nan Yi Huang Zun looked at the screen and smiled bitterly. This little guy is very sensible. Nan Yi Huang Zun sighed. Great wisdom may seem foolish. Dong Ji Huang Zun nodded lightly. The survival domain they were in charge of didn't last hundreds of eras, but millions of eras. What kind of situation hadn't they encountered? Lin Feng's situation was still considered child's play. Some super experts even organized a whole training camp of cultivators to help them obtain treasures. What they didn't know was that everything they did was recorded in the files. The Qianzuan training camp was not only the cradle of venerables, but also a door for the 7th Mercenary Alliance. Character and ability were clear at a glance. The 7th Mercenary Alliance would naturally reject those short-sighted and selfish cultivators. After all, no one wanted to spend a lot of resources to cultivate a group of ungrateful people. I heard that there are already a few supreme gods in Qianzuan City? Nan Yi Huang Zun said. It's normal. Dong Ji Huang Zun said. In the last era, Lin Feng already stunned the whole training camp. But his performance in the survival domain spread too late, so many supreme gods didn't know about it. Now that an era has passed, Lin Feng is firmly at the top of the ranking list. It's hard not to notice him. Nan Yi Huang Zun sighed. Level 95 in the dangerous domain. This is only the 2nd era. Dong Ji Huang Zun smiled faintly. The supreme gods in the last era were just a small test. As far as I know, there are already more than 10 supreme gods in this era. Nan Yi Huang Zun's mouth twitched and smiled bitterly. That's amazing. Chapter 2541. In the 77th year of the survival zone, Lin Feng entered the 2nd Emperor domain. But this time, the treasure was not suitable. Even if it was worth 20,000 Qian revered points, Lin Feng was not greedy and put it back in its original position. However, it wasn't as if they didn't get anything. At the very least, they managed to obtain 3 feral beast cores from the feral emperor. And one of them was very suitable for Aurora's 7th move. Level 10, Space Compression. It was perfectly compatible with a Aurora meteor. It could compress and collapse space to the limit. Not only could it trap the enemy in an area, it could also increase the density of the Aurora meteor. Attack, greatly increasing its explosive power. In the 93rd year of the survival zone, Lin Feng entered the 3rd Emperor domain. The War Saber Emperor cut down the 4 ferocious beast emperors as if he was cutting cauliflower. The ferocious beast emperors, which had the combat power of a primary venerable, were like hens. But this was Lin Feng's first time seeing 4 beast emperors guarding a treasure. Mustard Ocean. Lin Feng learned all the information about it from the top AI. This small white amber that was the size of a corn grain was shockingly valuable. It had only one function: expand the sea of consciousness. The simpler the function, the stronger the effect. Compared to treasures with 2 or 3 effects, Lin Feng liked treasures with only one effect the most. This was because he could maximize the effect of this one effect. Hua, endless energy spread out. The mustard ocean expanded rapidly from the center of the sea of consciousness. In an instant, the area of the sea of consciousness doubled. But the energy was not used up too much. The sea of consciousness continued to expand. 1 time, 2 times, 3 times. It only stopped when it had expanded 4 times. I still can't feel the limit. Lin Feng was also surprised. He thought that after refining the mustard ocean, his sea of consciousness would expand to its limit, but it did not. The limit of my sea of consciousness is too big. Lin Feng was shocked. From what he knew, his sea of consciousness was comparable to elementary level 1 thought venerables. It should be because of the 10,000 origin mustard stone. Lin Feng faintly understood that although the 10,000 origin mustard stone didn't expand his knowledge sea by much, it increased the upper limit of his knowledge sea by a great deal, just like the quality of his soul. The bigger the sea of consciousness, the better. When one became a one-thought saint and obtained the soul of chaos, the sea of consciousness would increase proportionally. Therefore, the wider the sea of consciousness was now, the bigger the sea of consciousness would be when the time came. It's still early. I still have a lot of time to expand my sea of consciousness. Lin Feng was not in a hurry. Breaking through to become a venerable would have to wait until after the trip to the Yellow Spring Secret Realm. After leaving the King Domain, Lin Feng headed to the Slaughter Domain. Although there were only 7 years left, every single one of the God-slaying training camp's experts had a decent chance of survival. For the current Lin Feng, as long as he saw someone, it would be very difficult for them to escape. Because as long as he attacked, he would be able to kill them in one hit. In just 3 years, Lin Feng had gathered the full 10 million survival points, including the 3,000 hidden revered points from the survival crystals, the 8,000 hidden revered points from the survival domain, and the hidden revered points from the combat domain, as well as the first place on the leaderboard. It's actually more than the last era? Lin Feng didn't know whether to laugh or cry. He had spent a lot of time in the training facilities in this era, but not only did he not use up many hidden revered points, he even got more? Thinking about it, Lin Feng understood. Compared to the universe area, only the mixed strength Void Palace in the Diamond area used up a lot of hidden revered points. Adding on the fact that he had entered the dangerous natural region many times, he had spent a lot less time in the Diamond area. Moreover, he could get hidden revered points in the dangerous natural region. Although it was a one-time use, the further he went in the dangerous natural region, the more hidden revered points he would get. Reaching level 95 in this era naturally gave him a lot of hidden revered points, but after that, he would only get hidden revered points from level 96 to 100. In the next era, the upper limit of hidden revered points from the combat domain and the survival domain will be reduced. The same goes for the first place on the leaderboard. Lin Feng already knew about this. It was a balancing measure. The longer he stayed in the training camp, the less hidden revered points he would get. However, to Lin Feng, the hidden revered points he had accumulated in the past 2 eras was enough for him to spend. Adding on the fact that he would only get less hidden revered points in the coming eras, it didn't mean that there would be no more hidden revered points. 8 million points. Lin Feng had surpassed the last era's Trout Dragon and took the first place on the leaderboard in this era. Close to 20 million points was enough to show that Lin Feng's current strength was unrivaled in the 2 great training camp. Facing a monster like Lin Feng, the god-slaying training camp's cultivators felt like they were being ruled. How many eras has it been? Every era, they were the ones who suppressed the hidden revered training camp and bullied the rookies in the survival domain. However, in the last era, their beautiful lives were destroyed. The Blade King Aurora appeared out of nowhere and stepped on their corpses to ascend to the throne. He even killed Trout Dragon, the first place on the leaderboard. How terrifying! At that time, Lin Feng was just a rookie. They thought that Lin Feng would leave, but who would have thought that he would reject the Supreme God's invitation and stay in the training camp again? This era was like a nightmare. The combat domain and the survival domain were completely crushed. The name of the Blade Emperor shook the entire god-slaying training camp. This era should be over, right? Of course, what's the point of staying? In the last era, there were 3 supreme gods who wanted to recruit him. There will be more in this era. The Blade Emperor will definitely find a suitable teacher. Let's go. With him here, we won't be able to raise our heads. The god-slaying training camp's cultivators were also upset. They were already lucky to be chosen by the Venerable, but the Blade Emperor chose his own teacher, and the one he chose was a supreme god teacher. The difference was too big. However, the god-slaying training camp's cultivators did not have any complaint. Instead, they hoped that Lin Feng would be accepted as a disciple by the supreme god as soon as possible. Only then would they have a better life. What could they do? They were also in despair. They wanted to send this god of plague away as soon as possible. If Lin Feng stayed in the training camp, when would they have a better life? The god-slaying training camp's cultivators prayed with hope. However, what awaited them was another piece of bad news. Outside the infinite gravity chamber in the Diamond District, Lin Feng's name did not disappear. It was still firmly in the top spot. What did this mean? If Lin Feng was recruited and left the training camp, then even if he was still in the Diamond District, 100-year rest period, his name would disappear from the infinite gravity chamber's rankings. However, it did not. No way? Goddamn it, he's still staying? Is he crazy? He's addicted to torturing us. Damn, if he's not leaving, then I'll leave. Lin Feng naturally did not know that his decision to stay had provoked a group of cultivators who did not want to leave the god-slaying training camp. At this time, Lin Feng was in the infinite gravity chamber, inspecting the results of this era's cultivation. Every inch of his muscles seemed to be refined from fine steel. His body was perfect, and as he trembled slightly, strands of primal chaos energy seeped out. In front of him, the time had passed 70,000. Chapter 2542. 71288. After an era of bitter cultivation, Lin Feng had made great progress. His physical body had always been his forte, but he hadn't been able to make good use of it. The perfect chaotic body had endless potential and was even stronger than the body of the Trout Dragon. It was only slightly weaker than the Yuan Venerate Yunmen. This was almost the limit of what a human could achieve. 95. Lin Feng, 71288. Lin Feng smiled as he looked at the left side of the endless gravity room, where his name had been left on the historical list. Outside the endless gravity room, a few demon race powerhouses were staring at the historical list with wide eyes. They were so shocked that their jaws almost dropped. How many eras had it been? The 100 names on the endless gravity room's historical list hadn't moved at all. However, there were ripples today. A new name was engraved at the top. The most frightening thing was that this was a human, and, right in front of them, all the demon race powerhouses were dumbfounded as they looked at Lin Feng. Goodbye. Lin Feng bade farewell to the dumbfounded demon race powerhouses and left. The results of this era's cultivation were much more perfect than he had expected. His original goal was to exceed 50,000 seconds, but he had exceeded 70,000 seconds. In the endless gravity room, every 10,000 seconds was a threshold. Lin Feng was confident that he could reach 80,000 seconds in this era, but with his current ability, exceeding 80,000 seconds was already his limit. It was impossible for him to exceed the 90,000 seconds achieved by the unvenerate men. There were some things that couldn't be achieved now, so there was no need to be demanding. Perhaps there would be a chance in the future? Furthermore, every cultivator had their own strengths. The unvenerate men was a unique special life form. His basic conditions were heaven-defying, and his physical body was one of the best in the entire universe. In terms of physical body alone, he could only be considered the best among the geniuses in the entire universe. Humans aren't strong in their physical bodies, nor their souls. Even their perception isn't strong. Mediocrity, or even mediocre, is the label of humans. One day, I will break this label. I will tell the entire universe that humans aren't mediocre. We are good at everything, and we are not inferior to any other powerful race. It's not mediocre. It's comprehensive. Lin Feng had great ambitions. As he received more and more information from the top-level artificial intelligence, his horizons were broadening. Although he still did not have a clear direction, he had a vague goal in his heart. It was just that he could not be sure of it yet. However, Lin Feng was certain that such a path existed. Comprehensive? Why did he have to specialize in one area? Since he could walk so many paths, why couldn't he combine them all? The universe was all-encompassing. The universe itself was an amalgamation of space, time, energy laws, and material powers. It was just that many paths had been forcefully created. Lin Feng knew what he lacked. Teacher. A super expert who truly stood at the pinnacle of cultivators and could look down on the masses. His knowledge, experience were irreplaceable. He could help him to pass on the Tao and dispel his doubt. Are you referring to primal chaos supremacy? Divine Venerable Pai Xiu looked at Lin Feng. I'd like to hear the details. Lin Feng bowed. Divine Venerable Pai Xiu paused and said, there are 4 types of supremacies. Universe supremacy, time supremacy, space supremacy, and diamond supremacy. You should know about them. Lin Feng nodded. Divine Venerable Pai Xiu continued. To be precise, there are 5 types of supremacy. It's just that there are fewer cultivators of the 5th type. Humans have one thought supremacy, demons have demon heart supremacy, and demons have demon soul supremacy. Although their names are different, their essence is the same. What they cultivate is their own souls, said Qin Wentian. Oh. Lin Feng was enlightened. The 6th type of supremacy is very special. It's often hard to find. For example, inheritance supremacy. They become a supremacy directly through inheritance. For example, innate supremacy. They are blessed by the universe and become a supremacy. These special supremacies have one thing in common. Unless they have a great opportunity, they will never be able to improve their strength. Lin Feng's heart trembled. The easier it was to obtain, the greater the restriction. However, it was not easy to become a supremacy. For the vast majority of powerhouses, they would not be able to improve if they could not improve. After all, it was too difficult to become an almighty. These are actually supremacies within the range of common knowledge. In addition to these 6 types of supremacies, there is a 7th type of supremacy. We call it advanced supremacy, because it is the advanced form of an ordinary supremacy. This type of supremacy is stronger than the previous 6 types of supremacy at the same level. Advanced supremacy. Lin Feng had read about it from the information of the top-notch artificial intelligence, but the information was not clear and detailed. Obviously, the 7th Mercenary Alliance did not want their own cultivators to take such a big detour to become advanced supremacies. After all, they could become supremacies step by step. Why would they waste energy on other aspects? Becoming Huang Zun, godly supremacy, or even Yuan Venerate was the right path. No matter how strong a supremacy was, could he be comparable to Huang Zun or godly supremacy? That was the logic. One could only achieve great success by focusing on one aspect. However, Lin Feng knew that he might still be top-notch if he chose any path of supremacy, but he would definitely not be considered outstanding in the universe, let alone perfect like Yuan venerate Yun Men. Giving up on other aspects would mean giving up on one's own advantages. Being comprehensive was the greatest advantage of mankind. Universe supremacy cultivates the fusion of nomological laws and becomes a supremacy. However, no matter how many nomological laws are fused, they are actually only in the category of energy. No matter how many changes there are, they will still remain the same. They will only be perfect in this sky law. If nomological laws can be fused, why can't sky laws be fused? This is advancing to supremacy. The most well-known supremacies are supremacy spacetime and supremacy primordial chaos. The former uses time and space-sky laws to advance, while the latter uses the physical body and soul to advance. Because these two sky laws are more compatible, it is easier to advance. As for the other supremacies, it is more difficult. The hardest to advance is primal chaos supremacy. To become a primal chaos supremacy, one must master 5 sky laws at the same time: time, space, power, energy, and soul. There are very few successful people among the billions of races in the universe. Are you sure you want to take this path? Divine Venerate Pai Xiu looked at Lin Feng with a strange luster in her beautiful eyes. She knew very well how difficult this path was. Many supremacies had cultivated bitterly for tens of thousands of eras before giving up and turning to supremacy spacetime or supremacy primordial chaos. To become a primal chaos supremacy, one not only needed the best aptitude in the universe, but also extremely strong opportunities and temperament. However, once one became a primal chaos supremacy, one would become the darling of the universe and a supremacy among supremacies. Yes. Lin Feng looked at Divine Venerate Pai Xiu firmly. Chapter 2543. Divine Venerable Pai Xiu naturally did not come here to chat idly with Lin Feng. Although Lin Feng's talent was peerless, there were too many geniuses with peerless aptitude. Those who could turn their potential into true strength were too few. Moreover, Lin Feng's talent was driven by his comprehensive nature. If he cultivated only one path, he might not be able to match up to Huang Qinyan. Let's go and pick the ultimate heavenly law treasure. This was Divine Master Pai Xiu's real purpose. Okay. Lin Feng had been waiting for a long time. In the last era, he had picked the 1,000-cut needle. It would take a long time to unleash its power. However, it was different this time. Do you have a treasure you want? Divine Master Pai Xiu entered the treasury with ease. Lin Feng followed closely behind. I want a weapon. Okay. Divine Master Pai Xiu did not say anything. Usually, when a genius like Lin Feng became a disciple of an ultimate god, he would be given a chaos treasure. Weapons were the most important and naturally had the highest priority. Therefore, there were not many who chose the ultimate heavenly law treasure weapon. However, Divine Master Pai Xiu did not object to Lin Feng's choice. After all, Lin Feng was in his own hands. Moreover, the Lin Feng she knew was very opinionated and had his own ideas. Every step he took was carefully considered and would not act rashly. He had his own reasons for choosing this. On the contrary, Divine Master Pai Xiu was interested in the path Lin Feng wanted to take. Chaotic supremacy. I wonder if Lord Yenwu is willing to guide this little guy. If he is willing, our 7th Mercenary Alliance may have a second chaotic supremacy. Haha, Lin Feng naturally didn't know that even though primal chaos venerables were rare, and this path was even more rugged and bumpy, requiring 10 times or even 100 times more effort than others, since they existed, there was naturally already a pioneer among the 10 million venerables in the 7th God realm. There were billions of races in the universe and endless eras. There was never a lack of super geniuses. There were many in the 7th Mercenary Alliance alone. Yuan Venerate Yunmen was one, and so was Hierarch Yenwu. He was the only chaotic ultimate venerate in the 7th Mercenary Alliance, and was also known as the unrivaled ultimate venerate. This was because Hierarch Yenwu was already unrivaled among all the ultimate venerates. He had even killed a Yuan venerate before. It was quite terrifying for a venerable to kill someone of a higher level. This was far more difficult than killing a venerate at the almighty level. Even someone as strong as Yuan venerate Yunmen had never killed a Yuan venerate at the godly venerate level. Beep, Ka Hua, 3 layers of password restrictions. Even in Qianzuan City, the treasury of a first-grade supreme treasure of the heavenly path was abnormally heavily guarded. Lin Feng naturally knew. Looking at the tightly shut metal door, his heart was filled with anticipation, excitement, and eagerness. This was a first-grade supreme treasure of the heavenly Tao. In terms of value alone, it was already more precious than ordinary primordial treasures of the primordial chaos. In terms of both value and power, it was superior. Therefore, the defense of this treasury was quite tight. There are 7 supreme treasures of the heavenly path in the treasury, and 2 of them are weapons. One of them is a spear, and the other is a blade, Hierarch Pishio said calmly as he entered. What he meant was that Luo Yunyang was pretty lucky. Lin Feng followed closely behind. The most commonly used weapon was a sword, followed by a pair of gloves. Swords were the preferred weapon of human powerhouses, while gloves were preferred by the demon race and demon race. Blades were the 3rd most commonly used weapon, followed by claws, and spears were the 7th most commonly used weapon. Therefore, it was not surprising that there were spears in the weapons category, but for blades, Luo Yunyang was pretty lucky. I think there were only 6 of them in the last era? Lin Feng suddenly remembered. Seeing that Hierarch Pishio did not speak, he did not ask any more questions. After all, it was normal to have one more or one less item after an era had passed. Perhaps a certain Huang Zun had returned one, or perhaps a treasure refining master had made a new masterpiece. There were many possibilities. Whoosh, entering the treasury, Lin Feng's eyes suddenly lit up. The 7 supreme treasures of the heavenly path were arranged in a fan shape, and it was almost clear at a glance. The aura they contained was extremely strong, much stronger than that of the 3rd-grade supreme treasures of the heavenly path. Lin Feng did not say anything, and he did not even look at the other 6 supreme treasures of the heavenly path. As soon as he entered the treasury, he walked straight to the center, as if attracted by a powerful magic. That war blade that was as high and mighty as a demon emperor, filled with an extremely violent aura, or rather, a murderous blade. An extremely terrifying murderous aura. Murderous blade, desolate bone. Hierarch Pishio's voice sounded behind him. This was not made by a treasure-refining master, but came from a murderous burial ground in the universe's secret realm. It may have been derived from the weapon of a powerhouse, or it may have been born in the secret realm. It is a pure war blade without any law enhancement, but it is a unique material that can add any law energy. To use the murderous blade desolate bone, you must first get its approval, and then you must have a strong will. Its power is not inferior to any supreme treasure weapon of the heavenly path. His voice was loud and clear. Hierarch Pishio's voice was very calm, but there was a kind of certainty and no doubt. At this time, Lin Feng was already very close to the murderous blade desolate bone, and he could touch it if he reached out. At such a close distance, looking at the brand marks on mournful bone, they seemed like engravings and scars. It was a shocking sight, inch by inch bone-piercing, just like the spine of a peerless ferocious beast. Bloodthirsty, fierce, crazy. It had its own pulse, its own emotions, as if it was a living being. This was it. Pa! Lin Feng did not hesitate and directly grabbed the hilt of the murderous blade desolate bone, and a cold aura instantly rushed over. The fine scars and engravings flashed with rays of light, as if they were rejuvenated. Pung! 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 It was as if the pulse of the murderous blade desolate bone was connected to him. Good blade! Lin Feng was moved, and a violent aura rushed into his mind, but it had no effect on Lin Feng at all. His strong will perfectly controlled the murderous blade Desolate Bone, and it was easy for him. The current Lin Feng's life level had already surpassed the peak Divine Master level. His strength was far beyond that. Boom! The murderous blade Desolate Bone suddenly burst with surging energy, and it was like the entire treasury had fallen into an extremely cold ice cellar, making people's hearts tremble. Lin Feng's aura also changed greatly. The originally calm figure suddenly seemed to be possessed by Shura, full of murderous energy, as if he had returned from hell. It has such power even before the fusion. As long as the bloodline fusion is complete, even if only the first level's power is used, it will be comparable to an ordinary supreme treasure of the heavenly path. Hierarch Pichio looked at Lin Feng's back and nodded in satisfaction. My lord didn't send this blade in vain. He is indeed the most suitable master for the murderous blade Desolate Bone, but why is my lord so concerned about this little guy? Could it be? Chapter 2544. The second ultimate heavenly law treasure. And it was a weapon. Lin Feng was not in a hurry. After all, he was still in the treasure vault with Divine Master Pai Xiu beside him. It would not be too late to do it after returning to the training camp. 15 Divine Masters came this time. Are you still not satisfied? Divine Master Pai Xiu looked at Lin Feng, unable to see through him. Among the 15 ultimate gods, there were some who were stronger than her and some who had a higher status than her. However, Lin Feng still rejected all of them and stayed in the training camp, just like the previous era. Not really. Lin Feng caressed the body of Mournful Blade lovingly. His eyes showed deep satisfaction. Although Mournful Blade's murderous aura was about to overflow, Lin Feng's consciousness was not affected at all. Sir, you should know the reason. Lin Feng put away Mournful Blade. Primal Chaos Venerable? Divine Master Pai Xiu had just learned of Lin Feng's ambition. Lin Feng nodded. Primal Chaos Venerable involves 5 different heavenly law. My foundation is actually very weak in all aspects, so I hope to stay in the training camp for a few more eras to strengthen my foundation. Divine Master Pai Xiu nodded. That's good. She hoped that Lin Feng could choose a teacher. This time, among the 15 Divine Masters, there were a few who were close to her and wanted her help in private. This put Divine Master Pai Xiu in a dilemma. She hoped that Lin Feng could choose a teacher as soon as possible. However, knowing that Lin Feng was going to take such a difficult path to become a venerable, it was important to spend more time in the training camp to strengthen his foundation. Although there were resources, secret techniques, and even personal guidance from a divine venerable, that was usually only one of the paths. It was not like the training camp, which was divided into different categories and was very detailed. Moreover, even a divine venerable would not be able to provide training facilities that were suitable for divine masters. All the training facilities here were the result of the 7th Mercenary Alliance's efforts. Most of them were provided by Grand Elder Taipong. Sir Divine Master, if I still want to get an ultimate heavenly law treasure, is there any way? Lin Feng asked. Supreme God Pai Xiu was taken aback for a moment before he frowned. 2 supreme treasures of the heavenly Tao were still not satisfied? Even super geniuses would find it extremely difficult to obtain a single ultimate heavenly Tao paragon treasure. Yet, this little fellow had actually obtained 2 ultimate heavenly Tao paragon treasures, and one of them was the top-tier vicious saber Morning Bone. It was still not enough. This Supreme God Pai Xiu also understood Lin Feng's thought. Taking the path of a primal chaos venerable meant that Lin Feng would have to stay at the peak of the almighty stage for a very long time. Obtaining one more ultimate heavenly law treasure was equivalent to increasing his combat strength. After all, if an ultimate heavenly law treasure was unleashed to its fullest potential, its might would be comparable to a chaos treasure. A divine master was unable to perfectly control a chaos treasure. In the Hidden Supremacy Training Camp, the 2 items you obtained are all of them. Supreme God Pai Xiu said. Is there a sovereign domain? Lin Feng asked again. Supreme God Pai Xiu shook his head and said solemnly, there is an ultimate heavenly law treasure reward in the Heaven Bright Secret Realm, but since you have entered the Hidden Supremacy Training Camp, you can't enter the Heaven Bright Secret Realm. The Heaven Bright Secret Realm and the Hidden Supremacy Training Camp were the 2 paths for super geniuses of the 7th Mercenary Alliance to become venerables. Lin Feng felt slightly regretful. He also knew that the ultimate heavenly law treasures of the 7th Mercenary Alliance were mostly concentrated in the Hidden Supremacy Training Camp and the Heaven Bright Secret Realm. He had already taken the quota of the Hidden Supremacy Training Camp, so he couldn't enter the Heaven Bright Secret Realm. Therefore, he could only take these 2 items. It's not impossible. Supreme God Pai Xiu looked at Lin Feng and suddenly said, there is a way to enter the Heaven Bright Secret Realm? Lin Feng was overjoyed. Supreme God Pai Xiu shook his head. It's the 7th Hidden Supremacy Conference. Lin Feng had heard of it before. Supreme God Pai Xiu said, the 7th Hidden Supremacy Conference isn't organized by the 5 great leaders. It's backed by the almighty Old Man Zhai Xing, it's held every 100 eras, and all divine masters can participate. The rewards are very impressive. Old Man Zhai Xing, Lin Feng whispered. This was the 2nd Almighty he knew, and this Almighty had nothing to do with the 5 great leaders. Supreme God Pai Xiu said, the competition is simple and straightforward. It's a 1-on-1 elimination system. Those who enter the top 32 will get the ultimate heavenly law treasure. The top 8 will also get the chaos treasure, so it attracted a lot of newcomers. Basically, the 5 great leaders can split 80% of the top 32. With your current strength, I believe you have more than a 50% chance of entering the top 32. 50% chance? Lin Feng was slightly stunned. He was at level 95 in the Dangerous Heaven region and only had a 50% chance of entering the top 32? Lin Feng didn't think that Supreme God Pai Xiu was underestimating him. She knew his every move in the training camp like the back of her hand. If she said so, it meant that his current strength was indeed only in the top 32. And it was only a 50% chance of entering the top 32. Supreme God Pai Xiu looked at Lin Feng and said, don't underestimate yourself, but don't be too arrogant. There's always someone better. After all, this is a competition between the super talents of the universe and all the newcomers in the past 100 eras. Let me give you an example. There are only 3 peak almighty overlords in the 7th Mercenary Alliance who can pass the 100th level of the Dangerous Heaven region. The most powerful one is Yi Su from the Chigu Astral region. He entered the training camp 91 eras before you and he was ranked 3rd among the newcomers in that era. He stayed in the training camp for 2 eras and was accepted as a disciple by Yu Yi Huang Zun. Yi Su had already become a venerable 60 eras ago, so he could participate in the 7th Hidden Master meeting every 100 eras. Even for venerables, there is only 1 chaos treasure among 10 venerables. Although the venerables of the 5 great leaders have more chaos treasures, they are still in short supply. Lin Feng understood. That was right. He was already invincible in the training camp in this era, but that was only in this era. Take Trout Dragon for example. He was already at level 90 in the Dangerous Heaven region in the last era. If he stayed in the training camp in this era, even if he wasn't as strong as Chun Fan, there would still be someone at level 92 or 93 in the Dangerous Heaven region. If that was the case in one era, what about 10 eras? So what if it was 100 eras? With Trout Dragon's talent, he would definitely be accepted as a disciple by Huang Zun. He might not even need 10 eras to reach level 100 in the Dangerous Heaven region. Take Huang Qinyan as an example. Given enough time, would it be difficult for her to reach level 100 in the Dangerous Heaven region in 100 eras? Not at all. Thinking of this, Lin Feng felt relieved. If he expanded the time to 100 eras, his current combat power wasn't that outstanding. In the 7th Mercenary Alliance alone, there are about 8 peak-level Divine Masters who are stronger than you. Divine Venerable Pai Xiu's words were shocking. I'm referring to your soul attack. If we ignore the soul attack and only talk about close combat power, there are more than 80 of them. Chapter 2545. The 7th Mercenary Alliance, Xing Feng Branch. Honorable Xing Yang, Kuei Yi Huang Zun, Honorable Bai Fu, Honorable Nan Qiu, and the other honorables were all present. Their expressions were strange and hesitant, as if they were troubled by something. The preliminaries, semi-finals, and elimination rounds have all ended. Honorable Xing Yang looked at the other honorables. There are 1280 spots in the finals, and we have 98 spots. It's less than the previous competition. Kuei Yi Huang Zun looked serious. We are the 4th among the 5 magnates. You can't just look at the number. Only those with true strength can get the 10 spots, Honorable Nan Qiu said. He still has a chance. He has the combat power of a peak Divine Master. As long as he doesn't meet the 5 magnates, he should have no problem advancing. Honorable Xing Yang's voice was uncertain. Honorable Bai Fu chuckled. If you don't want to be laughed at by the other 4 magnates, you better be safe. The honorables fell silent. Of course, they knew what Honorable Bai Fu meant. The pride of Xing Feng Astral World, the super newcomer Lin Feng. They were very concerned about the news of the hidden revered training camp. Because of Lin Feng, even their Xing Feng Astral World's reputation rose. Honorables from other astral worlds came to visit. They had reserved the spot for Lin Feng for the finals of the 7th Hidden Revered Conference. But the problem now was, should they ask Lin Feng to participate? With Lin Feng's current strength, he could easily crush Xing Feng Astral World in the finals. But it was because of this that they hesitated. Originally, Lin Feng wasn't so popular. It was fine if he wasn't so monstrous, but now the more famous Lin Feng was, the greater the responsibility on their shoulders. He was the super newcomer that all the big shots in the 7th Mercenary Alliance were paying attention to. 15 geniuses that honorable gods wanted to take as disciples. What if something happened to him in the 7th Hidden Revered Conference under their instigation? Could they bear the responsibility? There was a possibility of death in the 7th Hidden Revered Conference. It was true that Lin Feng was invincible in the Xing Feng astral realm with his current battle prowess, but what would happen if he obtained one of the 10 spots? At that time, Lin Feng would have to face the super geniuses of the other 29,998 astral realms. Who could guarantee that Lin Feng would win? Who could guarantee that Lin Feng would come back alive? Furthermore, what was the most attractive thing about the 7th Hidden Elder meeting? A chaos treasure. An ultimate treasure of the heavenly Tao. But was it attractive enough for Lin Feng? Lin Feng had already obtained 2 ultimate heavenly Tao cardinal treasures. As for the chaos cardinal treasures, everyone knew that as long as Lin Feng agreed to become a disciple of one of the ultimate gods, the chaos cardinal treasures would be at his fingertips, and there would definitely be more than one. Treasures of the chaos might be very rare for ordinary venerable ones, but experts like Huang Zun only had a few, not to mention ultimate god experts. It was normal for ultimate gods who did not take in disciples easily to give 3 or 4 chaos treasures to their disciples at once. Xing Yang has decided, Kuei Yi Huang Zun said. Seconded. Agreed. Of course. The group of venerables followed Kuei Yi Huang Zun's lead. The administrative matters of Xing Feng's astral realm were all handled by Venerable Xing Yang, so the venerables were naturally willing to stay out of it. If anything happened to Lin Feng, at least they would not be the scapegoat. This. Venerable Xing Yang's face instantly turned bitter. What could he do? He was also in a difficult position. If something happened to Lin Feng, he would not be able to bear the responsibility. If he did not call Lin Feng, he would be somewhat incompetent as the person in charge, and it would be difficult for him to convince everyone. Not to mention, if he was defeated again in this 7th Hidden Elder meeting, he would lose a lot of face. He was in a dilemma. Suddenly, Venerable Xing received a message and immediately stood up from his golden chair, beaming with joy. News from Yunhe. Lin Feng's name in the Sky Duel Arena has been lit up. Whoosh! The eyes of the Venerables all lit up. Even Kuei Yi Huang Zun's lips curled up as he nodded in satisfaction. The Sky Duel Arena was the territory of one of the 5 great Leviathans, the Space 30,000 Worlds. The 7th Hidden Elder meeting was provided by the 5 Leviathans in turn, and the previous one was the Cosmos Bank. As for the name being lit up, it meant that the cultivator had entered the Sky Duel Arena and was ready to battle. The finals were a single elimination format, with 80 cultivators split into 10 regions, each region having 128 cultivators. They would fight once every 10 years, and after 70 years, only one person would be able to advance. 10 regions meant 10 people would advance. Xing Feng's astral realm had always performed poorly, so it only had the lowest 10 spots. Haha, this is interesting. Huya was still arguing with me before, saying how strong their new genius Wu Yun was. Isn't he just an invincible peak god master? Hehe, so what if he's an invincible peak god master? Lin Feng can finish him in one slash. I'm looking forward to seeing the shocked faces of the Venerables from the Cosmos Bank, ha ha ha. Then what are we waiting for? Let's go. Let's go to the Sky Duel Arena to watch the show. Let's cheer for our Xing Feng Astral Realm's genius and show off. Haha, how long has it been since I felt so good? The Venerables all laughed, sweeping away their dejection. Their performance in the previous Hidden Elder meetings had never been good, and they were even swept away in the previous one, losing all their face. This time, they could finally raise their heads and not feel guilty. Space 30,000 Worlds, Sky Duel Arena. This was an independent space within the Xing Feng Astral Realm, and it was easy for one of the 5 great Leviathans, the Space 30,000 Worlds. At this moment there were many voices, and it was very lively. Although there were only 80 cultivators in the finals, it was far from the preliminary and semi-finals. However, every single one of them had a strong background. Every power would send other cultivators to support them, and there was no lack of venerables among them. This attracted a large number of cultivators from the Xing Feng Astral Realm, causing the Sky Duel Arena to be packed. It's so lively. Lin Feng walked among the crowd and didn't stand out. His aura was completely concealed, and he looked like an ordinary human youth. Beside him were Yuan Xiu and Ouyangyi, who had also come with Lin Feng to participate in the 7th Hidden Elder meet. They weren't like Lin Feng, who had directly obtained a spot in the finals. However, for Yuan Xiu and Ouyangyi, this was already their limit. In their words, they came to the Sky Duel Arena this time to accompany the Crown Prince. The elites of the Xing Feng Astral Realm from the past 100 eras have all come. How can it not be lively? Yuan Xiu smiled, pleased with himself. Unfortunately, it's impossible for them to obtain a spot in Big Brother Lin's hands. The little fox Ouyangyi giggled. Brother Lin, you're clearly bullying them. Yuan Xiu scratched his head and laughed. I thought Brother Lin wouldn't come, but I didn't expect it. Lin Feng smiled. He didn't plan to come either. Chapter 2546. After talking with Divine Sovereign Pai Xiu, Lin Feng finally decided to go. Actually, he didn't waste much time in the 7th Hidden Master Conference, but the civil war in the Xing Feng Astral World was a bit boring. Lin Feng was already invincible in the Hidden Master Training Camp, not to mention in the Xing Feng Astral World. However, things would be different after he advanced. Lin Feng was also looking forward to facing the super geniuses of the 29999 Astral World. According to Divine Sovereign Pai Xiu, he only had a 50% chance of entering the top 32. There were 8 people stronger than him in the 7th Mercenary Alliance alone, not including the other 4 giants. Whether it was to improve his combat ability or to see the super geniuses of the other astral worlds, he had to come. After all, the 100-era conference was only held once, and there wouldn't be another chance if he missed it. Brother Lin, are you here for the ultimate heavenly law treasure? Yuan Shiyu blinked at Lin Feng. Yes. Lin Feng didn't hide it. Yuan Shiyu sighed. Then you have to enter the top 32. That's not easy. Luckily, you're qualified to say that. Lin Feng's name was like thunder in the hidden master training camp. Everyone knew him. Level 95 in the dangerous heaven region, first place on the ranking board. This strength was definitely enough to crush him. It's still early. After I get a spot, the real 7th Hidden Master Conference will only start in the next era. Lin Feng didn't care about the civil war. Just as Yuan Shiyu said, with his current strength, advancing was just a formality. By the way, Brother Lin, you're in Area 1, right? Ouyangyi asked. Yes. Lin Feng nodded. Ouyangyi revealed a smile that resembled a blossoming flower and laughed. Previously, in the Sky Duel Arena, the Universe Bank kept bragging about how strong their super genius, Wu Yun, was. He was close to being an invincible peak divine master. An invincible peak divine lord? Yuan Shiyu smiled. If they knew that Lin Feng killed Giant Beast King like cutting vegetables, I wonder what they would think. Giant Beast King was more than enough to deal with an invincible peak divine lord. Yuan Shiyu had entered the king domain together with Lin Feng, so he naturally knew Lin Feng's strength like the back of his hand. At that time, he had already been shocked to the core. He didn't know that Lin Feng could even kill giant beast emperors like cutting vegetables. However, to Yuan Shiyu, this was truly somewhat unimaginable. Wu Yun's from Area 1? Yuan Shiyu asked. His luck is really good. Ouyangyi's bell-like laughter rang out. What a pitiful fellow. Yuan Shiyu sighed. Sky Arena, Area 1. Dark Cloud had long, flowing hair, jade-like skin, and a height of 2 meters. His slender fingers interlocked with each other as he revealed a charming and handsome smile. There was a group of fangirls around him. Their faces were red as they screamed hysterically. He was the super genius of the Universe Bank's Xingfeng distribution. He was the most popular candidate to advance. Black Cloud greeted the surrounding cultivators handsomely. He was not nervous at all, which was a stark contrast to the other cultivators who were participating in the competition. Look, he's Wu Yun. I know, the super genius of the Universe Bank. His teacher is Tiger Tracer Knight. His talent is peerless, and he is unrivaled at the peak of the Divine Master realm. Those participants in Zone 1 are really unlucky. They were actually placed in the same zone as Wu Yun. Their hopes of advancing to the next round were dashed. Just bad luck. Dark Cloud heard the voices around him, and the smile on his lips grew wider. This kind of heartfelt praise was very useful to Wu Yun. Get ready to go. Venerable Hu Yi had a ferocious face like a ferocious tiger. He looked terrifying, but his voice was calm when he spoke to Dark Cloud. Yes, teacher. Dark Cloud bowed slightly. Although you have the pearl of wisdom in your hand, don't be careless. Venerable Hu Yi was also very satisfied with this disciple. Teacher, don't worry. I won't let you down. Wu Yun smiled. His voice was filled with confidence. At the entrance to the Sky Duel Arena, Venerable Xingyang, Kuei Yi, Huang Zun, Venerable Bai Fu, Venerable Nanqiu, and the others stepped out of the teleportation array. Venerable Cloud Crane, who stood in front of them, greeted them with a smile. All of them were venerables. The surrounding cultivators all took a deep breath and stood respectfully. They didn't dare to step forward. Have you seen Lin Feng? Venerable Xing Yang stepped forward. Not yet. There are a lot of people. Venerable Cloud Crane said to Venerable Xing Yang, let's go to the duel arena in Area 1 and wait. Lin Feng's name has been lit up. He can participate in the battle at any time. What do you mean? Cloud Crane, tell me. I don't know much about this. Venerable Nanchiu didn't know much about the 7th Hidden Venerable Assembly. Venerable Cloud Crane led the way. The rules of the finals are very simple. There are 10 areas, and each area has 128 cultivators. There are 2 dual arenas, and only one can advance. There will be a round every 10 years. Those who light up their names can enter the dual arena and participate freely. The winner will advance. Participate freely. Venerable Nanchiu was quite surprised. Don't we need to arrange a battle? Venerable Xingyang smiled and replied, only one person can advance in each area, so there's no need to arrange a battle. There's no difference between early and late elimination. Although it's called the finals, it's only the preliminaries in the 7th Hidden Venerable Assembly. Venerable Nanchiu was enlightened. With only one person left in each area, it didn't matter how the battle was arranged, because the last person to advance would definitely be the strongest. Look, Area 1's Wu Yun is already standing on the dual arena. Wu Yun? That super genius from the Universe Bank? Right, it's him. He's the favorite to advance. I heard that he's the only heir of the Wu heir family. He's young, rich, and handsome. How can there be such a perfect person in this world? I didn't expect him to get on the dual arena so early. He's already taken one of the 2 dual arenas in Area 1. He's just acting. You didn't see how many girls are below the dual arena. Their screams are deafening, but there's nothing we can do about it. Who asked this brat to have the ability to act like one? The venerables from the 7th Mercenary Alliance looked at each other and smiled. Their smiles were filled with schadenfreude and unprecedented confidence. Area 1? The super genius from the Universe Bank? Lin Feng's news hasn't spread yet? Venerable He-Ao didn't understand. The training camp is in the 7th Divine World. How can it spread so quickly? Venerable Xingyang had a relaxed smile on his face. Only the Murdering God Tower has received some news. The Universe Bank is probably still in the dark. Lin Feng's reputation is rising too quickly. Kuei Huang Zun said, in another 10 eras, the other 4 giants will know, but they're still confused now. The 7th Divine World had 29,999 astral realms under it. To enter the 7th Divine World from the astral realm, one had to pass through the Golden Light Passage. It wasn't a place that could be reached as one wished. Therefore, the transmission of news was relatively slow. In addition, Lin Feng had only become famous in these 2 eras, and he was in the training camp. As for the other 4 giants, only the Murdering God Tower's Xing Feng branch had heard of him. Chapter 2547. Ha 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 ha! A burst of hearty laughter came from afar. 3 sovereigns with the same logo on their chests greeted them from not far away. The one in the middle looked ugly. He had a tiger head and a human body. He looked ferocious and exuded an arrogant aura. What brings all the members of the 7th Mercenary Alliance here? Venerable Huyi laughed. Let's take a walk and watch the fun. Venerable Xingyang put his hands behind his back and looked approachable. You're here to see Hiyu, right? Venerable Huyi raised his eyebrows and grinned. Well, he's in the 5th region. He shouldn't have any strong opponents. If everything goes well, he can get a promotion spot. Yes. Venerable Xingyang nodded. Hiyu's strength was not bad and his grouping was good. They had discussed before that Hiyu's chances of promotion were more than 80%. Sigh. Venerable Huyi sighed and pretended to be helpless. Our luck is not so good. That brat Wu Yun actually drew area number 1. Time Virtual Companies Lu and God Murdering Towers Yama Prince are all in this area. Each of them is a peak divine master. The sovereigns couldn't help but roll their eyes. This guy loved to show off, as if he was afraid that others didn't know how strong Wu Yun was. Wasn't he just an invincible peak divine master? No matter how strong he was, could he be stronger than Lin Feng, the top scorer of the Hidden Sovereign Training Camp? Before this, Venerable Xingyang and the others would probably be choked by Venerable Hu Ye's words. But now, the sovereigns sneered in their hearts and didn't say anything. They just watched Venerable Hu Yi leave proudly. I really want to know how Wu Yun will react after being defeated. Venerable Nan Qiu chuckled. Wu Yun is the only super genius in the Universe Bank for 100 eras. It's rare for him to be able to suppress everyone. Let him show off first. There's not much time left anyway. Venerable Xingyang still had a smile on his face. But he's right. Venerable Bai Fu chuckled and said, "Their luck in drawing lots isn't that good." The sovereigns looked at each other and then laughed. How long had it been since they were so carefree in the Hidden Sovereign Conference? This time, there was no tension or expectation at all because they knew very well that Lin Feng's promotion probability was 100%. Sky Duel Arena, Area 1. There was a sea of people. Both arenas had a supreme expert from 30,000 worlds who was in charge of maintaining order and acting as the referee. Regardless of life or death, the duel would end once the duel was judged to have died or lost the ability to fight, or had voluntarily given up. Therefore, the death rate of the 7th Hidden Venerable Assembly was quite high. However, this was definitely the best stage for a cultivator to prove himself. Other than the 5 great leaders, there were also some idle venerable ones who would come to watch the battle to find some good seedlings. Occasionally, a lucky person would be accepted as a disciple by a venerable one, and that would be like a carp leaping over the dragon gate. At this moment, there was a cultivator standing on each of the 2 arenas. However, everyone's eyes were focused on the cultivator on the left. He had long flowing hair and jade-like skin. He looked like an elegant young master. His face was brimming with a smile and confidence. He was one of the hottest candidates in the 1st district, the super genius carefully nurtured by the Universe Bank, Dark Cloud. Dark clouds. Dark clouds. Dark clouds. Below the battle stage, a group of girls were shouting loudly. Their eyes were filled with stars. They were all crazy worshippers of Wu Yun. There were also many cultivators from the Universe Bank who were excitedly cheering for Wu Yun. Listening to the shouts, Wu Yun smiled and nodded to the crowd below. He was enjoying it very much. He liked the feeling of being surrounded by people. He was like an emperor and his heart was carefree. Therefore, he had already stepped onto the battle stage from the beginning. Anyway, to Wu Yun, it didn't matter who his opponent was. Even if it was Time Virtual Company's Lu or God Murdering Towers Yama Prince, he was confident that he could win. He was the strongest among all the participants in the 1st district and even the Xing Feng astral realm. Below, Hu Yi Knight crossed his arms. His hairy arms were as thick as pillars. His huge head was domineering and arrogant. He looked at Wu Yun with pride. This was the disciple that he had carefully selected and nurtured. Although Wu Yun might be the only one in the Universe Bank who was good. However, quality was more important than quantity. For a truly strong newcomer, one was enough. As for the finals? Who would be Wu Yun's opponent? Hu Yi Knight smiled confidently. In his opinion, his disciple was just going through the motions. He could casually kill 7 opponents and advance to the next round. At this moment, an ordinary human figure jumped up from below and stepped onto the battle stage. The first one. Hu Yi Knight was very satisfied. The opponent came quickly. It was a reckless young man who didn't know what was good for him. A good stepping stone, the first battle to make a name for himself. Hu Yi Knight looked at the ordinary human youth. He was very unfamiliar and had no reputation in the Xing Feng astral realm. There was an uproar and a wave of excitement. Who is this kid? I've never seen him before. I wonder where he came from. Haha, he has guts. He dares to challenge Wu Yun in his first battle. His courage is commendable. What are you talking about? Doesn't it matter if he dies early or late? There are always some arrogant people who are overconfident in their own strength and don't believe in evil. He will soon regret it. He probably won't even be able to withstand 3 moves. 3 moves? What a joke. Wu Yun can kill such a small fry in 1 move. The cultivators chatted cheerfully and jokingly, occasionally teasing each other. For them, they were just watching the show. Wu Yun's name was well known in the Xingfeng astral realm. No one in the new generation could beat him. Challenging him? He was simply courting death. This was a duel without any suspense. It's so lively at the battle stage. Knight Cloud Crane looked into the distance. Knight Xingyang and the other venerables were walking slowly. They had just entered the first zone. They were not in a hurry. After all, Lin Feng's name had just been lit up. He should not be on the battle stage so soon. It seems that the battle has started. Knight Cloud of Nanqi looked straight ahead. Kuei Huang Zun was the strongest and had the most acute senses. He said in a deep voice, "It's the battle stage where Wu Yun is." Wu Yun? They are so efficient. The first battle has started so soon. Knight Xingyang smiled. No wonder it's so lively. Knight Hieo said, "Wu Yun is quite famous in the Xingfeng astral realm. He is handsome and charming. Many girls are fascinated by him." Knight Nanqiu's nose twitched. "He looks good but is useless. He can't be compared to our Lin Feng." Venerable Cloud Crane stroked his beard and chuckled. "You can't say that. Lin Feng, this little monster, is an elite super genius in the entire universe. It's a little unfair to Dark Cloud to compare him to him." Hee, hurry up. Kuei Huang Zun suddenly interrupted everyone's conversation. "What's wrong?" Knight Xingyang was startled. Knight Nanqiu was curious. Kuei Huang Zun's eyes brightened. He walked with majestic step. Wu Yun's first opponent is Lin Feng. Chapter 2548. Outside dueling platform number 1, Dark Cloud, who was surrounded by countless cultivators, appeared to be incomparably noble, like an emperor. Even his armor seemed to be brimming with light, and his aura was surging. The human youth on the other side seemed a little lonely. He was cold and cheerless, like a star in the morning. Yuan Xiu and Ouyangyi were among his supporters. "Who is he? He's so ugly with his oily hair and powdered face." Ouyangyi wagged her tail and pouted. "Dark Cloud from the Universe Bank. You've never heard of him?" Yuan Xiu asked in surprise. Ouyangyi rubbed her chin and blinked her big eyes. "I entered the training camp not long after I followed my master to the astral world." "Brother Kuei, is this Dark Cloud very famous?" Yuan Xiu smiled. "You can say that. He's the best newcomer in the Xingfeng astral world in the past 100 eras. He's almost an invincible peak almighty." Ouyangyi snorted. "Only an invincible peak almighty?" Yuan Xiu laughed. "You're really good at using talent. Isn't that so?" Ouyangyi's sparkling eyes stared at Lin Feng's back as her smile blossomed like a flower. "Compared to Big Brother Lin, I'm still lacking." Yuan Xiu sighed. "You can't compare him like that. The Xingfeng astral world is just a small astral world. It's already very good for it to produce an invincible peak almighty every 100 eras. As for Brother Lin," Yuan Xiu shook his head helplessly as he looked at the ordinary-looking human youth. "He's a monster. Get ready." The one in charge of dueling Platform 1 was Knight Kapeng, a high-level knight from the Space 30,000 world. Not only did knights have to act as judges, but they also had to avoid casualties as much as possible. Thus, a knight's own strength was very important. As the host, the Space 30,000 worlds sent out 20 high-level knights and 1 peak knight. "No problem." Dark Cloud's face was brimming with a confident smile. Surrounded by the cheers of the cultivators and women, his golden hair fluttered in the wind. An indigo-blue light shone in his hand. It was a peak heavenly law treasure sword. "That's enough," Lin Feng replied. Although he was wearing the perishing barbarian armor, his hands were empty and he didn't have any weapons. The war saber Di Yin had already been returned to the Xingfeng branch. Lin Feng did not want to use the vicious saber desolate bone. Currently, he had yet to fully control this supreme treasure of the heavenly Tao. It was very likely that he would accidentally kill his opponent in battle. Lin Feng didn't have any intention of starting a massacre since there was no enmity between them. Moreover, with his current strength, why would he need to use a saber in a mere civil war in a peak astral boundary? Perishing barbarian armor, no weapon? Venerable Hu Yi, who was under the dual platform, was experienced and would not underestimate his opponent. Although Lin Feng's breath was somewhat erratic, the treasure of the way of heaven on him could basically reflect his strength. Among the 1,280 cultivators who participated in the finals, it was not rare for them to possess a peak heavenly Tao cardinal treasure. One or two treasures were everywhere. For example, Dark Cloud had a total of 4 peak supreme treasures of the heavenly path, because his teacher was Venerable Hu Yi. It's not a big problem. Venerable Hu Yi, who didn't think much, was relieved. Suddenly, he was shocked. He glanced into the distance, and several familiar figures suddenly fell into his sight. Venerable Xing Yang, Kuei Yi Huang Zun, Venerable Yun He, all the venerables of the 7th Mercenary Alliance were here. What's going on? Venerable Hu Yi was slightly stunned and couldn't react. They should have gone to the 5th district to see He Yu. Why did they come to the 1st district at this time? Venerable Hu Yi and Venerable Xing Yang looked directly at each other. The latter narrowed his eyes and nodded with a smile, which made Venerable Hu Yi feel inexplicably cold. That smile was indescribably weird. At this moment, Venerable Ka Peng's loud voice rang in his ears, announcing the start of the duel. Instantly, he was surrounded by endless cheers and shouts. Venerable Hu Yi widened his eyes and looked in the direction of Kuei Yi Huang Zun. He suddenly turned his head and fixed his eyes on the dual platform. It was that human youth. Lin Feng? Venerable Hu Yi looked at the dual platform in shock. A beautiful aurora covered the platform. The human's palm was like a knife, drawing a beautiful arc and easily breaking Wu Yun's exquisite swordsmanship. It was simple and neat. Whoosh, 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 whoosh. Time seemed to have stopped for a moment. The 9 saber lights directly destroyed all of Wu Yun's defenses. Wu Yun's handsome face revealed a look of panic. His original confidence and elegance were all gone. His sword will was completely crushed. All that was left was the saber lights that filled the sky, forming an extreme full moon. Aurora, full moon. Chi. The 10th knife light burst out from the center of the full moon. Wu Yun's top heavenly treasure armor was directly broken. Lin Feng's eyes were bright and shining. In the training camp, controlling 9 knife lights was the limit of his soul, but now he could display 10 knife light. In terms of power, 10 knife lights were only a little better than 9 knife light. It was completely incomparable to the 6th and 7th moves of Aurora, but this clearly proved the improvement of his soul control. Although the improvement was small, it was visible to the naked eye. The practice of the 1,000-segmented needle has some results. Lin Feng had long been compatible with the ultimate heavenly treasure, the 1,000-segmented needle, and used it to practice soul control. Now he saw the initial result. Pung! Wu Yun's body was full of knife marks. It was a shocking sight. He lay on the dual platform with his arms and legs spread out. His perfect image was destroyed in an instant. The surrounding was silent. All the cultivators seemed to have been poisoned. The cheers and shouts turned into silence. A deathly silence. A group of cultivators from the Universe Bank were waiting to see their favored son kill everyone. Wu Yun's admirers, many beautiful girls from the astral world, wanted to congratulate Wu Yun for his successful advancement. However, they were given a warning. It was like a basin of cold water was poured directly on their heads. Their whole body was bone-chilling, and they felt inexplicably cold. What happened just now? Lin Feng wins. Karpung the Knight looked at Wu Yun, who had lost the ability to fight, and announced the result of the duel expressionlessly. His heart was also in turmoil. He had previously wondered about the origin of this unfamiliar human youth who dared to challenge Wu Yun in the first battle, but he had no clue. But now he knew. This ordinary-looking human youth was really powerful. Too powerful. He was on the duel platform, so he knew best what had happened in the battle just now. The outcome was decided in a flash. He couldn't even save Wu Yun in time. Of course, he didn't need to save him. This human youth didn't kill him from beginning to end. Karpeng the Knight knew clearly that if Lin Feng wanted to, he had the ability to kill Wu Yun. Impossible! A thunderous roar sounded, like a clap of thunder on the ground. Venerable Hu Ye's blood-red eyes jumped directly onto the duel platform like a furious tiger. Chapter 2549. Dark Cloud was defeated too quickly. He was killed in an instant, which made Hu Yi Knight lose his mind and rush to the arena. For Hu Yi Knight, the reversal and impact were too great. The super genius that the entire Universe Bank had high hopes for was killed in the first round of the 7th Hidden Venerable meeting. What a joke! Hu Yi Knight's head swelled. He could almost predict that countless eras later, he and the Universe Bank would become a laughingstock in the Xing Feng astral sector, even more so than the previous 7th Mercenary Alliance. First favorite to advance, once in 1,000 eras genius of the Universe Bank. He was defeated in the first round. It was a complete loss of face. Please go down. Karpeng Knight stared at Hu Yi Knight. They were all great beings of the Demon Clan, and they were all one of the 5 giant. Karpeng Knight still gave Hu Yi Knight some face. If it were any other knight, he would have directly kicked them down. Hu Yi Knight was only a middle knight. In terms of strength, Karpeng Knight could completely crush him. Ha ha! Ha, on the contrary, Knight Xingyang and the others were laughing. They had just seen Dark Cloud suffer a crushing defeat, and now they saw Hu Yi Knight jumping over the wall. It would be a lie to say that they were not happy. They had been sulking for 100 eras. For 100 eras, they had been mocked by the other 4 giant. Because of the previous 7th Hidden Venerable meeting, their 7th Mercenary Alliance had swallowed a duck egg. Now they could finally see the light. They would not feel good if they did not vent their anger. As for whether Hu Yi Knight would attack Lin Feng, Knight Xingyang and the others were not worried at all. Hu Yi did not have the guts to cause trouble in the territory of 30,000 eras. Even if he was blinded by anger, Karpeng Knight was watching from above and could directly kill him. Moreover, they had Kuei Yi and Huang Zun on their side. The moment Hu Yi Knight dared to attack Lin Feng, he would die without a burial place. Huang Zun and a knight were not on the same level. However, if it was not necessary, they would not do that. They were all part of the 5 giants, so it would be best if they could get along peacefully. However, if they were to meet on the battlefield, they would not be afraid. If even a single hair on Lin Feng's head were to be harmed, let alone them, the entire Xing Feng branch would be shaken. He was a genius that countless ultimate gods wanted to take in as a disciple. I just want to confirm if he is the real person. Venerable Hu Yi stared fiercely at Lin Feng and gnashed his teeth. In his opinion, no newcomer in the Xing Feng astral world could be stronger than Wu Yun. Furthermore, it was impossible for him to be so much stronger. If there really was a super genius, the 5 magnates would have already received news of it. It was very likely that the 7th Mercenary Alliance had deliberately found a powerful peak divine master expert to disguise himself as a newcomer so that no one would know. Don't be surprised, Kuei Yi Huang Zun said directly from below. Go down, Hu Yi. You look too ugly like this. Venerable Xing Yang advised with a smile. The Universe Bank can't even afford to lose? Nanqiu Knight sneered as he rubbed his nose. Venerable Hu Yi didn't know how to answer at the moment, and his old face turned red. He was already regretting that he had rushed up like this. It was difficult for him to advance or retreat. How do you want to confirm it? Suddenly, an indifferent voice sounded in the duel arena. All the cultivator's eyes suddenly focused on the ordinary-looking human youth. It was him who had just eliminated the popular Wu Yun at lightning speed. "How about we have a fight?" Lin Feng's words were shocking. There was a series of gasps around as everyone was shocked. They had yet to recover from the duel just now, and now another heavy bomb had exploded. Did they hear it wrong? This human youth actually challenged a venerable? Not only the spectating cultivators, but even the venerables of the Xingfeng branch who had been staying out of the matter were also stunned. Everything was going well and he had just won a big victory. What was Lin Feng doing now? Was he mocking Venerable Hu Yi? Or was he provoking him? Was he mocking him? Could it be that he was serious? Arrogant boy! Venerable Hu Yi was so angry that his whole body trembled. As a venerable, it was the first time he had been looked down upon like this. A venerable was being looked down upon by a little guy at the peak of the divine master level and was directly challenged. How could he bear it? Ha ha! Lin Feng smiled and didn't say much. He had always wanted to compete with a venerable to see what level his combat strength had reached. Although Trout Dragon's combat strength was comparable to a mid-level venerable, it was only comparable and not really a mid-level venerable. However, the one in front of him was a genuine mid-level venerable. Winning or losing was secondary. If he could meet a suitable opponent in the 7th Hidden Venerable Conference, it would be a worthwhile trip. Although Lin Feng was participating in the 7th Hidden Venerable Conference for the ultimate Heavenly Path treasure, to be honest, the Civil War didn't interest him at all. However, if he could have a hearty battle with a middle venerable here, it would be completely different. Thinking of this, Lin Feng couldn't help but look forward to it. "Are you coming?" Lin Feng asked again. Venerable Hu Yi, who was already furious, couldn't bear it anymore. He was worried that this was against the rules, and that he was bullying the weak. At this time, there was only endless anger left. Immediately, a black sledgehammer appeared in his hand, entwined with terrible energy. "Hu Yi!" Kuei Huang Zun frowned and suddenly shouted. A huge aura instantly enveloped the dueling platform. Even Lin Feng could feel that Huang Zun's powerful oppression was undoubtedly revealed. He only needed a thought to kill Venerable Hu Yi. Whoosh! Venerable Tiger Tracer staggered like a deflated ball. The difference between venerables was also obvious. He might not be afraid of Venerable Kapeng, but that was Kuei Huang Zun. In the Xingfeng branch, only a few other big shots could talk to him on equal terms. Lin Feng. Kuei Huang Zun's voice was slightly gentler, like a solemn elder. "Don't be willful. I hope Sir Huang Zun can fulfill my wish." Lin Feng bowed slightly. Kuei Huang Zun frowned slightly. Lin Feng's reaction was somewhat unexpected. With his identity and status, he could suppress the situation, but for a top genius like Lin Feng, blindly suppressing him and making him follow the rules would obviously do more harm than good. Geniuses had their own ideas. "Lin Feng, are you serious?" Venerable Xingyang stepped forward and asked with a smile. "Yes." Lin Feng nodded. "If you want to do something, then do it." Venerable Xingyang put his hands behind his back and smiled. "The Xingfeng branch is your strongest backing." Then, he looked at Kuei Huang Zun. "Isn't that right, Kuei?" Kuei Huang Zun nodded. Lin Feng felt warm in his heart. In fact, he also knew that such a challenge was a bit willful. From the standpoint of the Xingfeng branch, it was their duty and responsibility to stop him, just like how they loved their own children. Letting him go was a kind of deep love. "Come." Lin Feng turned his head and smiled at Venerable Hu Yi. Chapter 2550. At this moment, such a smile was full of provocation and contempt, which went deep into Venerable Hu Ye's bones. "Arrogant boy! I'll let you know that a venerable can't be despised." Venerable Hu Ye's arms swelled violently, his muscles bulged, and his whole body was full of mixed power. The terrifying power shook the entire duel platform violently. "Roar!" In the void, a huge tiger seemed to have awakened, standing majestically among the clouds. The pitch-black sledgehammer complemented the huge body of Venerable Hu Yi. It was filled with mixed power, and the power of the supreme treasure of the Way of the Heavens was exerted to the limit. It was much more terrifying than Lin Feng's war saber Di'in. The buzzing sound made the space tremble. The powerful aura of a mid-level Venerable intimidated the crowd of cultivators who were watching. That was a Venerable. Moreover, it was a middle Venerable, a high and mighty existence. These divine master cultivators had never seen a Venerable fight, so they were very excited. Even the seriously injured Wu Yun couldn't help gritting his teeth and clenching his fists when he saw his teacher Venerable Hu Yi teaching the young man a lesson. He still didn't know how he lost. He lost too fast. What do you think? Venerable Xingyang looked at Kuei Yi Huangzun. 3 times the physical control, about 5 times the mixed power, and 15 times the mixed power. He's barely a middle Venerable. Kuei Yi Huangzun saw the strength of Venerable Hu Yi at a glance. The gap between the 2 middle Venerables could be huge. 10 times the mixed power was a middle Venerable. 99 times the mixed power was also a middle Venerable. Obviously, Venerable Hu Yi was only the weakest among the middle Venerables. Although Trout Dragon was comparable to a middle Venerable, he was only on par with Venerable Hu Yi. Kuei Yi Huangzun was not stupid. If Venerable Hu Ye's strength was close to that of an advanced Venerable, he would definitely not allow Lin Feng to challenge him. However, Venerable Hu Ye's current combat power was comparable to that of Trout Dragon, so he turned a blind eye. In his opinion, if Lin Feng could defeat Trout Dragon, he would most likely be able to defeat Venerable Tiger following. Although Venerables had higher life levels, stronger willpower, and stronger momentum, as far as he knew, Lin Feng was not weaker than Venerable Hu Yi. That was indeed the case. Kuei even felt that Huang Zun had underestimated Lin Feng. The current Lin Feng was no longer the same as when he had defeated the Trout Dragon. At that time, Lin Feng's close combat ability had yet to reach the level of a mid-level Venerable. However, after an era of cultivation in the Vajra region, Lin Feng had already undergone a perfect transformation. The infinite gravity room reached 70,000 seconds. This meant that his control over his fleshly body was 7 times greater than before. If it were an ordinary divine master expert, it might not be a big deal. However, Lin Feng's body was the perfect chaotic body. He could control the body of a genuine Venerable. The heavenly Tao of chaos had reached the perfect level. It had increased from 1 time to 10 times. The perfect chaotic body was equivalent to 100 times the basic chaotic body. When these 4 attributes were combined, Lin Feng's chaotic body had reached 7,000 times, which was the ability of a peak-stage Vajra Venerable. It was even close to the limit of an ordinary Venerable, which was 10,000 times. However, Lin Feng's chaotic body was only 0.01 times before he became a Vajra Venerable. The power of his chaotic body was only 70 times, which was the level of a mid-level Venerable. Even so, he had far surpassed Venerable Hu Yi. Mixed strength was still very important. For example, an expert with a normal fist strength of 10,000 tons could casually punch out a few thousand tons. For an expert with a normal fist strength of 100 tons, no matter how exquisite his moves were or how high his realm was, it was already not bad to be able to unleash 1,000 tons. The gap between a Venerable and a Divine Master expert was obvious in this regard. A Venerable was a Venerable. The dignity and holiness of a Venerable were inviolable. Boom! The obsidian hammer was enlightened and directly suppressed Lin Feng. It could greatly gather the chaotic body's power. Venerable Hu Ye's chaotic body's realm was not high, so he had worked hard in the aspect of strength. His chaotic body's storage was large. With the help of his body's control, he could greatly activate the chaotic body's explosion. Coupled with the obsidian hammer, a peak stage heavenly Tao supreme treasure. His dark aura was like a black cloud pressing down on the city, causing the mountains to collapse and the earth to crack. The surrounding cultivators turned pale. The Venerable One's aura and pressure made them breathless. That aura and that power made their hearts feel like they were being crushed into pieces. However, Lin Feng was as still as a mountain. Was he scared out of his wits? That was the first thought that emerged in the minds of the surrounding cultivators. Suddenly, clang! A terrible force spread out from Lin Feng's hand. A hideous and ugly beast with a single horn on its forehead roared to the sky. Its scales were shining, and its fierce and violent murderous aura went straight to the sky. It was unwilling to be oppressed. It was unwilling to yield to the heavenly might. Wild, crazy, unruly, ancient fierce beast, mournful meander. The fierce sword mournful bone, which was forged from the seventh vertebra and the most powerful vertebra, flashed. The marks were like the marks of life, and the rays of cold light were as cold as ice. Clang! The terrifying power instantly suppressed Venerable Hu Yi. It was a true ultimate heavenly Tao supreme treasure. When its power was fully unleashed, it was comparable to the chaos supreme treasure. The chaotic chi meandered on the fierce sword mournful bone, making the whole sword seem to have its own life. Its pulse was beating, and its aura was majestic. The first realm. Ha! Although Lin Feng had just merged with the fierce sword mournful bone and could only exert the power of the first realm, the fierce sword mournful bone itself was a top ultimate heavenly Tao supreme treasure. Even if it was only at the first realm, its power was comparable to that of an ordinary ultimate heavenly Tao supreme treasure. It was several times stronger than War Saber Diin. What? Venerable Hu Ye's expression changed greatly. He felt the terrifying power from the obsidian hammer as if it was being swallowed by an ancient fierce beast. The next moment, Aurora appeared, and the tornado was violent, tearing apart the defense. In the void, Aurora turned into a giant dragon and rolled up. Humph! Venerable Hu Yi snorted angrily. His eyes suddenly widened, and the terrifying power instantly surged. The meridians all over his body bulged, and his blood vessels surged. The obsidian hammer was even darker and brighter. The fierce tiger in the void bit at the ancient fierce beast. The exquisite hammer technique was natural. Venerable Hu Ye's immersion in endless eras was extraordinary. One hammer turned into thousands of hammers, and the power was constantly accumulating and erupting. However, Lin Feng's Aurora's saber technique was also ever-changing in an instant. The tornado was violent, and instantly fell like a meteor. Quantity suppression. The power was even more suppressed. Chi, the space limit was suppressed, and the meteor light was even more dazzling. Venerable Hu Ye's expression changed greatly, and he felt that his body was out of control. The next moment, the meteor light directly penetrated the obsidian hammer shadow and fell directly on his body. Bang! 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 The saber was like a meteor. With the 10th order space pressure and the complete outbreak of 70 times the mixed power, Lin Feng was like a god on the dual platform. He beat Venerable Hu Yi into a mess. His armor was broken and blood was flowing. He was seriously injured. On the stage, Lin Feng floated in the void, overlooking Venerable Hu Yi, whose breath was weak and injured. Below the stage, a group of cultivators was stunned and horrified. Chapter 25:51. Venerable Hu Yi lost miserably. Without any suspense, Lin Feng was completely suppressed in all aspects. Now, Lin Feng was much stronger than Venerable Hu Yi. The restraint of the heavenly path of mixed strength, the subtlety of the blade technique, and the perfect control of the body. Venerable Hu Yi had nothing but greater strength and more abundant mixed strength. In the face of Lin Feng's storm-like attacks, he couldn't exert his brute force and was directly smashed into pieces. He fell to the ground and couldn't get up. With his face flushed, Venerable Hu Yi wanted to find a hole to hide in. He had no strength to fight back at all. The surrounding quiet voices were like silent mockery, causing him to be unable to show his face. Swoosh! The space shook, and Venerable Hu Yi teleported away, but he didn't have the face to stay any longer. The surrounding cultivators looked at the empty dual platform in a daze, and then looked at Lin Feng, who was floating in the void. Deep fear spread in their hearts. What kind of monster is this guy? It's too scary. He actually beat a venerable so hard that he had to flee with his face covered in dust. Now that they thought about it, Wu Yun's defeat seemed ordinary. A monster who could even defeat a venerable, defeating a mere Wu Yun was nothing. Ha ha ha! Venerable Xing Yang laughed, breaking the silence. The venerables of the Xing Feng branch laughed impolitely. Even Kuei Huang Zun, who usually didn't show his emotions, smiled knowingly. He looked at Lin Feng, his eyes full of appreciation. How many eras had it been? Thousands or tens of thousands? Uncountable. Their Xing Feng branch hadn't had such a super genius for a long time. With the power of a peak divine master, he defeated a medium venerable cleanly. At first, when Lin Feng challenged him, Kuei Huang Zun was still a little worried. After all, a venerable was a venerable, and it wasn't so easy to deal with him. But obviously, he worried too much. Lin Feng's combat power was stronger than he imagined. Venerable Hu Yi didn't underestimate his opponent. He lost to Lin Feng when he went all out. This proved Lin Feng's strength. His combat power was close to a high-level venerable, and even if he goes all out, can he defeat a high-level venerable? Kuei Huang Zun was very curious. He couldn't see through this newcomer Lin Feng at all. Lin Feng was filled with mysteries and the unknown. His potential was as boundless as the sea of stars. Saber Emperor? An abrupt voice sounded from the side of the battle stage. They were two valiant and formidable-looking young men. One of them had long azure hair, closed eyes, and fair skin that was like jade that emitted a bright luster. The other had bronze skin, messy hair, and dark blue eyes that were filled with an unruly and untamed wildness. It's Lu from the Time Virtual Company, and the Yama Prince of the God Slaughtering Tower. They were the other two favorites to advance to the next round. Although his reputation was not as good as Dark Cloud's, he was still a well-known newcomer. The one who spoke just now was the Yama Prince. At this moment, his eyes were shining as if he had seen a treasure. He was unable to contain his joy. Heavens, it really is the Blade Emperor. Yen Mo, is he the Blade Emperor Lin Feng you've always mentioned? Lu opened his eyes and looked towards the dueling platform. Right. He's my idol. The Yama Prince was so excited that he danced with joy. He looked at the figure of Lin Feng on the dueling platform with admiration. You don't know, the name of the Blade Emperor in the training camp is like thunder to the ears. Our entire training camp changes color when the name of the Blade Emperor is mentioned. That's the absolute dominance. He's the pride of our Xing Feng astral boundary. I didn't expect to see the Blade Emperor here. I'm so happy. Hee ha 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 ha. The Yama Prince was so eloquent that he danced with joy. He chattered non-stop. He couldn't wait to tell the whole history of Lin Feng's prestige in the training camp. He didn't have the demeanor of an expert at all. He was just like a child. At this moment, the surrounding cultivators finally understood that this unknown newcomer, Lin Feng, was actually so powerful. He ruled 2 major training camps. No wonder he could easily defeat Dark Cloud. No wonder he could defeat Venerable Hu Yi. That was a collection of 29,999 astral boundaries, and it was the training camp of 2 giants. In comparison, Xing Feng astral boundary was insignificant. Swoosh! Dark Cloud's handsome face was pale. He looked at Lin Feng's figure with inexplicable fear. He trembled from the bottom of his heart. He didn't expect this inconspicuous human youth to have such a strong background. Thinking of the arrogant words from before, Dark Cloud felt his cheeks burning. He had overestimated himself. His achievements in Xing Feng's astral plane were like the difference between a firefly and the moon when compared to Lin Feng's. They were not even worth mentioning. Dark Cloud pursed his lips tightly. His expression changed again and again. He bowed slightly to Lin Feng and then turned to leave. He felt a little embarrassed before, but now there was only shame and admiration left. He just made some small achievements and he was so arrogant. But the other party dominated 2 major training camps, and he still kept a low profile and worked hard to improve himself. This bow was from the bottom of his heart. Dark Cloud sincerely thanked Lin Feng for enlightening him. His name spread far and wide. Lin Feng had defeated Dark Cloud and Venerable Hu Yi consecutively, and the arrival of Yama Prince, his fan, which made Lin Feng famous in the Sky Duel arena. All the practitioners were talking about this legendary newcomer. As expected, Lin Feng easily won in the first region and took one of the 10 spots to advance. The Universe Bank was completely wiped out, and the 7th Mercenary Alliance could be considered to have made a comeback. They didn't get one of the 10 spots in the previous tournament, but this time they got 2 spots. Among them, Lin Feng was even more dazzling, making the 5 giants envious. To Lin Feng, this was just a small episode. After participating in the finals of Xing Feng Astral Boundaries' 7th Hidden Honor Conference, the next universe battle would be the real test. He would compete with the other super newcomers of 29,999 astral boundaries to become the champion of the 7th Hidden Honor Conference. The real battle of super newcomers. According to Pai Xiu Supreme God, Lin Feng only had a 50% chance of advancing to the top 32. The combat strength of some extraordinary newcomers was already comparable to high-level Exalted Realm experts, and some with peerless natural talent were even comparable to peak Exalted Realm experts. The true gathering of geniuses from all over the universe. There are 3 eras, I'll take it slow. Lin Feng returned to the Hidden Honor training camp and once again immersed himself in cultivation. He could still improve after 3 eras in the Hidden Honor training camp. His chances of winning the championship might not be high, but he was still confident of advancing to the top 32 and getting an ultimate Heavenly Dao treasure. After participating in the 7th Hidden Honor Conference, it's time to enter the Netherworld Secret Realm. Lin Feng slowly stepped into the space of the 5 regions. He still felt uneasy. After all, the destruction of the Milky Way super black hole, no matter how much he delayed it, was imminent. He had to remove this time bomb as soon as possible. It was just that he didn't have enough strength yet. Quick! I have to be quick. Lin Feng had a bad feeling in his heart.